Good now, revolutionaries. In case you missed it, this is take 2. We had some yakety sax over on Alex's channel, so I want to introduce you to today's episode and say officially welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. It is morning somewhere, and we are rounding out the week today with a great show. We've got Keegan MagicInternetMoney joining at the top of the hour for an interview on all things technical analysis. He has built a reputation as an excellent trader, an excellent teacher, an excellent content creator, and we are so excited to pick his brain to figure out what the heck technical analysis is all about. Hey, everybody from Alex's channel, welcome. Thank you so much. Angel, it's so good to see you here. Thank you for traveling. Jim, thank you for traveling. Great to see you all here. I'm going to do an abbreviated version of the spiel for folks who are on YouTube. If you want to see the antics, first of all, you need to join us on TikTok Monday through Thursday live at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is now, since we skipped forward, 12 p.m. UTC, that darn daylight savings time. We are here answering your questions about crypto, interviewing our friends, exploring topics relevant to the future of the internet, how to access it, how to properly protect yourself, all that stuff. And I'm excited to tell you we're launching a newsletter. Why are we launching a newsletter? Because there are a lot of people who don't tune into the show every day. And that's a lot to ask, but we still want to give you the value from the show each week. So Alex and I are curating a list of our favorite links, our favorite tools, our favorite tokens, the things you need to know from the show in brief little bits. It's going to come to you one time a week, super infrequent, super valuable, and we're thinking about other ways to add to the value too, so stay tuned there. This week, to incentivize everybody to sign up for the newsletter, we are sharing our POAP via newsletter. The mint links and secret words will be distributed there. So if you are a POAP collector, I see you, Dave, then head on over to my bio, head on over to Alex's bio. It's a single click, not like Discord where you got to put in the link now, to sign up for the newsletter. It's the very first thing in our bio, at the link in our bio. And you can also alternatively go to the tree we've created at theriseupmorningshow.com. If you go to theriseupmorningshow.com, not only can you sign up for the newsletter, get that great news, get the POAPs, you can also join our Discord server. It's in together. We share what we know. We ask our questions. We learn, grow, and rise up together. I'm so glad you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up with lots of likes on the screen for my co-host, Mr. Alex Popovich. Alex, brother, how you doing?
What the hell?
I told everybody how rugged we got, man. I said, this is why, if you're watching on YouTube, you got to watch the live show, because you get all our antics, man. And we got some antics.
It never ceases to boggle my mind how many technical difficulties we have with basic, like, streaming platforms or meeting softwares.
Yes.
And yet, this is what we do for a living. So
we do not only technology, but specifically video. Hey, man, I'm just an actor. I just show up.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I really like that, Angel. That was a good one.
I think, though, that, I don't know, I'll have to dig around and look. I do know that it's a thing, where TikTok just rolls out a feature, and instead of just updating everyone's app with the new feature or having like specific parameters, for the feature, they just like randomly give it to some people and don't give it to others. So apparently I just don't get layout options because the option just straight up didn't exist. But no matter.
Yeah, but no matter. We have got, as I've teased, a great show today, and I don't know if you want to get into news and stuff because we've got a little while before Keegan gets here, but I absolutely am going to need you. Doesn't have to happen immediately, but I think it should, to give an update on what you've been doing for the last 24 hours and how it's been going for you while you've not been sleeping.
Yeah, I did not really sleep last night, and it was it was a hell of a night. Let's get started with that. So first of all, everybody, thank you for bearing with me while I, through my sleep-deprived state, run the best show in Web3 for all of you. But I was trading shitcoins late into the wee hours of the morning. In my defense, I was also watching Yellowstone, and I just started it, and I have never seen it before. And so I'm pretty into it. So that was definitely another thing that kept me awake. But
Yeah, and can I
Yeah.
just tease them really quick by sharing just a few snippets of like the play by play I was privy to last night that prompted me to share this story. Um, I mean, I love having a group chat with people like Alex because you get to hear great things out of context, like got a good catch and went big. Uh, anyone aping into base Jesus? Uh, we're some already got ETH loaded, baby. Hold on to your butts. Um, Alex, I'm pretty sure is dealing with the anxiety that comes from swinging a bag of meme tokens by aggressively
Yes.
messaging our chat. And I have to tell you, we are all living vicariously through him. At one point in time, he pings us, guys, I'm up 2x. And then he pings us, guys, 3x. And eventually, he pings us that he's up 10. Give us the numbers play by play. In
Yep.
24 hours, you are up on your meme bag big time,
Yeah.
right?
Pretty big. Yeah.
And this is what started. You guys saw this with me. This started last week when the helpful you don't have to be a mechanic to drive your car to the grocery store, Alex, became
Sure.
full send. Haven't touched a trade in a couple of years. Alex became 1 minute candle watching,
Yeah. Just went
penny
full
stock trading, Scrooge
went
McDuck.
full degen. Well, and I think so. A couple stats about this that are impressive from my point of view. I've only been rugged 3 times, which is pretty impressive. Zero leverage, Jim. The shit coins by themselves are better than leverage. I don't have to mess with leverage.
Alex said on
And
the phone call to me last night, he said, "Where in the world can you trade 30 to 40% at a time every minute?" I was like,
yeah,
nowhere, man.
dude, to put this in perspective with how ridiculous these things are, yesterday, while I'm tangling in the meme casino, I find the one that I'm going to make a bet on. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, this one's on Base, so the blockchain by Coinbase. And I'm like, you know what? I have like a little smidgen of ETH. It's already in a fresh MetaMask wallet that I used for something else the other day. I honestly had just been letting it sit there because it wasn't really enough to justify like withdrawing and sending somewhere else and also paying, 40% of its total value in the gas to get it there. So I was like, it's just going to stay there. And then yesterday I see this meme pop up and I'm like, yep, that looks like a winner, at least for the next few hours. And I was like, oh, snap, I already have ETH. So I hopped over and then, of course, realized, like a nub, that it wasn't bridged to Base. So I had to do that real quick. Now, 2 things. One, the bridge itself, super easy. You do have to pay gas to use it heading off of Ethereum because it's Ethereum. And anytime you try to do anything with it, you lose money. I don't know why do people use that blockchain? It's terrible. It's horrible. It's so stupid. It just makes no sense. No, don't show me things on ETH because that blockchain is dumb, and I'm not doing things on ETH. We don't
Layer
do things
twos
on.
only,
Yeah, we
super,
do not
super
use
cheap
Ethereum
only.
in the bull market. Okay, we stay away from Ethereum in the bull market because we don't want to pay 50, 60, 70, $80 just to send a transaction.
Now, to be fair, I did move a transaction into a token. I feel like I'll probably hold for the swing through this market because it was a fair amount of money and the $30 I paid in gas was worth it. But I'm not touching that.
Sure,
Not for like weeks, man. At least.
no, yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, that's the thing. You gotta be so deliberate and specific about like what it is you're trying to do. Just because you know that like, but see, that's the thing. The way to if you actually want to tangle with the absolute garbage that I was messing with last night, you're not slinging around a shitload of money, right? Especially if you don't know what you're doing. That's the worst way you could approach it. You're gonna lose it because most people who do. So you want a little bit, but like if you're trying to just like throw $20 into something just to see what happens, but the gas fee to get you there is $45. Like, okay, so now just to break even on the transaction, we need a 3x. That's horrible. So anyway, I'm getting off the subject here. Point is, in the time it took me to bridge the ETH from Ethereum to Base, and then connect my wallet to Uniswap to make the transaction, the thing I was looking at had already done a 10x from where I made the decision I was going to bet on it. So I just want to say that I feel like I sort of vicariously got my first 100x, even though I wasn't actually in it, because I saw the thing, recognized the trend, and I was like, that one's going to rip real quick. And I, had I been able to get in at the time that I had originally like popped open the interface and was like hit submit, I would have 100x'd. Now, if you'll recall from my most recent video, had I 100x'd and tried to take my whole bag as a profit right there, I would have single-handedly obliterated the liquidity for this meme coin and sent it straight into the ground. So the trade probably wouldn't have worked. Because the other thing to remember is that at the same time that I was looking, other people were buying it, right? So other people can see that. And at the time, liquidity was like 22 grand on a 60 grand market cap project. So like when I say degenerate tiny little meme coin, I'm talking so small it almost doesn't exist. Like, a butterfly could fart nearby and this thing's going to zero. All right. So anyway, I got into it, and exactly that. I was basically just live tweeting the thing to the group chat. And I remember I was just like, all right, there's the 2x. And of course I'm sitting here thinking like I should pull the initials out. But then I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do anything else with this Ethereum anyway. Like, we're learning. I already knew from the moment I clicked send, I was like, there is a probably better than 50% chance that this money disappears. The other day, actually, I was trying to grab something and slippage wasn't set right. We'll get into that in a second. But the first transaction misfired, and in the time I was like resetting to re-go, the thing rugged. So I was like, I got saved by the slippage and missed a rug. I was not tweeting anything. No, I would never like live.
This was a totally private chat.
Yeah, this is just in the group chat that Evan and the rest of us.
It was responsibly irresponsible,
Yeah. No, I fully don't enjoy like broadcasting the things that I'm doing onto social media like that, just because I don't know. It would be funny. I can recognize that, but I also just know from personal experience that people sometimes take the things that we say a little bit too literally. And like, I was 100% in the zone of like, okay, I'm clicking approve this transaction. This is a wallet that like I could be interacting. This thing was so fresh. This meme coin launched like 2 hours before I joined it, and there's no information. So the only thing is that someone on Deck Screener had verified it wasn't a honeypot. So I was like, at least there's a chance I can sell it. But the tax was modifiable, which means that the person running the thing could. You're actually, you know what, Evan? Here, I can pull this up and show people what that looks like. 1 second.
Yeah, and not only is it's so likely to go one way or the other. Alex has the motility. He knows where he's at. He's one guy executing one trade at a time. Anybody who's watching, we hesitate to talk about this stuff while it's happening because anybody who's watching publicly, it can be taken as an endorsement. And even if that kind of thing was legal, to do it down the line of what Alex is doing, you're almost certainly going to be too late. Are you going? Alex, can you walk everybody through this real quick? It's my nephew's birthday, and I want to just run next door and wake him up and tell him I love him.
Absolutely. Yep, go for it.
Yeah, right. Shrink me. Check this out.
Yep.
Let's get some shrinkage on me. I'll be right back, everybody.
While Evan does that, I'm going to turn this thing around and show you guys what I'm talking about. Jim, it was called Base Jesus. And actually, I woke up to, so I pulled my money out of it before I went to bed because there's a 80% chance that you just wake up to being rugged. And in retrospect, obviously, I had the thought, I should leave a little bit in there just in case. But, at that point, the thing was hopping around so much. And I was like, there's a lot of security concerns with this particular one. So I was like, nah, just get out of it. I'll find another one tomorrow. And it is up again from this morning. Not terribly, but something. So considering a re-entry to swing it around a little bit more. But, I think the meme might have moved on. That's the other thing. These things are so fleeting, interest-wise, that's one of the riskiest pieces. Like, even if the thing itself is fine, there are so many of these launched that you have a pretty good chance of just like blinking or walking away from your screen and like a funnier thing gets launched that's just like a slightly better derivative of the thing you're looking at. So totally hear the idea of Moonbag, but I was trading with so little that if I had left just a sliver in there, I would have probably had to put more in to cash that out because the like minimum sale amount, which is another thing that they can futz with, was less than what my remainder of the project would have been. So I figured just to, like I've said before, I have a Web3, an actually helpful crypto lessons video. And one of those things is if you walk away from a trade in the green with more than you went into it, you won. Even if someone else comes around and cashes out for a slightly bigger return, you still won because you are one of the very few who walked away in profit. And most people don't get to say that. So, oopsies. Let me turn this around and show you what I am talking about. Okay, so you guys will recall, let me get this out of your way here. You'll recall I've made a couple videos detailing a few of these tools. This one in particular is called, where are we at? Dex Screener. It's just like Dex Tools, but I actually kind of like the layout of this one a little bit better. So what I'm talking about is down here. Jeez. All right. Down here. So you pick a thing. Here's Brett. This is the biggest or one of the biggest memes on Base right now. So I'm just using it as an example. You can pop down here and there are security, the security kind of reports, the preliminaries, I guess. And what you can do, see here, it's even self-reporting that there are 2 issues. Okay, here's a list of things that can be present within the project. And there's a few of note here. Okay, so buy and sell tax verified at 0. This is good. This is one of the ways that you can get got. If this is unverified, unknown, or high, you might jump into something and then realize that, oh, if I want to sell, there's actually a pretty significant sell tax. So, that's one of the ways that the people who launch these things can try to make extra money, because it's a massive concern for like the launch wallet to keep some of the supply back. That one probably would not rip. And so, the less, the slightly more malicious amongst shitcoin launchers, yes, you should learn how to read the contract. I agree. However, the vast majority of people are not going to do that. So this is at least a thing that you can check to get some basics, right off the bat. Don't do it. If you have like good resources that you could recommend for people to like start to learn how to read the contract, or a way that you might suggest analyzing it, if you don't have the ability to read Solidity or read whatever is needed to understand the contract, please feel free to drop those down, or you can DM stuff to me. I can share it with the group, because that would be super helpful. I would love to read some stuff like that. But basically, my only point here is just to show the quickest thing you can do to do the basic preliminary check. Will do. Sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. So anyway, this is one of those red flags right here with the tax modifiable. So this just means theoretically, that whoever created all of this has the potential to go back and futz with this even after the thing is live. And the reason that this is worth highlighting is because one of the things that you'll hear about cryptocurrency or smart contracts or whatever is that the whole thing is immutable, it's unchangeable. And that is not necessarily the case. It all depends on how it was originally built and set up. We actually launched an NFT collection that was specifically meant to be altered after mint. So I had every permission to go in and change things. It's a little different because it was open and, you know, like people could request changes, and that was kind of the whole point of the project. So like everyone knew that going in, but you could not tell people about that, lure them in with the promise of something, and then just change everything, you know, to grift or scam or steal money or whatever. So things like this are just worth noting. I do completely agree with what Don't Do It Bro said, that the best way, especially if you want to remove the element of trust in a human from the equation, because, you know, we may be looking at quote unquote trustless things here, but this front end, for example, was designed by a person. And so that front end is going to be displaying whatever whoever built this front end, this website, wants to display here. And if you don't have the ability to check the code yourself, you just kind of have to take the word for whatever is on screen here. And, you know, obviously that's not the single most trustless way that you could exist. So let me turn me around back here. Anyway, just something to keep in mind as you're looking at this. Oh my God. As you're looking at this stuff. Dex Tools also has one of those little warning screens where you can kind of at least get some basic preliminaries. The layout is slightly different, but, you know, the same basic principle is achieved. So it's just a good thing to check. How much? Okay, so let's back to my original story here that prompted this whole rant. So yeah, I basically my process, you know, for picking it is a couple things. I've explained my wine bottle theory before, and I will preface this again by saying none of this is a guarantee. Okay, this is incredibly risky. You are just as, if not more likely to lose everything than you are to make a few bucks. Go in understanding that you are basically walking into a casino and pulling a slot machine. Okay, I don't think anybody would, you know, or at least you shouldn't, walk into a casino and, you know, have your last few dollars and think that a reliable source of income would be playing a penny slot. But that's what's happening. Okay, so I like that a lot. Memes are PvP 99% of the time. Yes, that is a great way of explaining it. You really are just walking into the trenches with everyone else, and everyone else has the same objective. And so after you look at this for a while, you kind of get used to thinking like that. A good example would be, you know, you're staring at an up only chart. It's a couple hours old, right? The thing is ripping. The thing you have to remember is, you know, in the back of your head, at all times is going to be this little voice that is telling you, remember that guy on Twitter who made $100,000? That could be you if you just sit here and wait. The spoiler alert is that it's probably not, right? Like, those are 1 in a million. Does it happen? Yes. That is why this can be a problem. Because as you're sitting there staring at it, the other people who did this are sitting there staring at it. Some of them have a lot more money on the line than you. And everyone is basically just sitting there with their finger on the trigger, just like, okay, do I pull it? Do I pull it? Do I pull it? Do I pull it? And finally, one thing's going to change, right? Like, momentum of up is going to pause for just long enough where someone who is massively in profit is going to sell it. On this particular shitcoin that I was looking at yesterday, you can, on Dex Screener, you can, well, let me see, I'm just going to point it here. You can go down here to the bottom where the transaction list is. Don't worry about reading this. And you can click top traders, and you can kind of get a breakdown of the other people trading this thing. The one for this little meme yesterday, the top trader put $80 in, and 2 hours later he sold it for $7,000. So like that person is, you know, that's the example of the one who won. But if you then go through the rest of the incoming and outgoing transactions just on the main list and highlight, the wallet in question, it'll give you last time. I'm lying to you. It's not the last time. It'll give you a little breakdown of the wallet, right? So like, here, this one, they bought for $395, they sold for $498, they made $102. They don't have any unrealized because they're not holding anything. There's their address. They've got 2 transactions. So you can look at those and determine, anyway, you can basically just determine exactly what I was just saying, that most people are just sitting here with their finger on the trigger waiting to sell. And these things are fickle. I mean, they're so small that like you'll have a warning in your wallet oftentimes that is like, hey, a price change alert, which basically is just like letting you know that if you execute the trade you're thinking about executing right now, you will impact the price. These things are so tiny. Yes, Lisa, it's always a good reminder. I said it already today, but when you're doing stuff like this of questionable interactions on a blockchain, it's always a good idea to use a burner wallet. Use a wallet that's not your main one. Throw it into something else. Which is another reason why I don't like Ethereum, because to do that you'd have to pay gas again for that. But yeah, please feel free to drop any more questions in here. You could call this segment brutally honest shitcoin talking. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, bet the house on a meme. Yes, yeah, base was great, dude. It was great. The user experience that I had while starting to just kind of mess around. This was the first time I've ever used base. Jim, I sold. So I watched it go to a 10. It was a small amount of money, and I was kind of sitting there, like I said, watching Yellowstone and trading shit coins and talking to my friends. So I let it ride a little bit longer, and before I finally crashed for the evening, I ended up pulling out of it at just about an 8x. So it was a decent thing. I can see base being the future of Ethereum. The bridge was so easy. It took a couple minutes for it to finalize. I did pay, the one-way transaction fee, but now that I'm here, I've made several trades and I haven't paid a completely inconsequential amount in gas. Solana, same thing, love it or hate it for various reasons. It's also very cheap. So that's why the trading over there is more popular, because you can do it without sacrificing your gains just to make the transactions, regardless of whether you like the ecosystem for whatever reason or not. Evan, welcome back.
Thank you, my friend.
ATK, great question. Can you speak on diluted supply? What might be bad diluted supply on a project? Absolutely.
Ooh, you guys got warmed up, and now you're talking serious.
We did, yes. We're getting into the nitty gritty here. We were just going through a couple of the tools that Deck Screener can show you.
Deck Screener is like a spaceship, man. I couldn't find. I was on it last night for the first time in a long time, and I couldn't find a contract address. All I could find was a pool address. So I'm excited for this personally. Also,
it is laid out a little bit differently than Deck's tools.
Evan, can you make me a BTC shirt that says "Larry bought my bags"? Absolutely, we can put that in the store. If you want to, real quick commercial, if you do want to support the show, one of the things we have up at the riseupmorningshow.com, just click to shop, buy a mug. You can buy a "My Mom Thinks I Work at Bitcoin" t-shirt or sticker. I absolutely love the idea for "Larry bought my bags." Do you want a picture of, do you want a picture of him on that? I don't know if there's a good picture. You're talking about Larry Fink, right? Not Larry David from the FTX commercial, I presume. Yeah, teach me this spaceship, Alex, because my
Yeah,
goodness.
no worries. Oh, look at that. So from when just to put this in perspective, okay. From the time that I woke up to right now, which, let's see, what time is it? It was like just under 3 hours. This meme that I was first talking about, the Jesus one,
Praise Jesus, yeah.
it's down 85%. And I can look right here and I can see the buy volume at the peak right before this 80% decline, and I can determine individuals who purchased that peak and then are currently holding down 80+%. So just remember, like when I say that you can absolutely lose it when you're doing this, it's totally the case. I mentioned I've been rugged 3 times doing these, where you catch an early one, it just launched, they haven't had a chance to do many of the security concerns. The only ones that I won't do are if I can't verify whether or not it's a honeypot or not. And a couple minutes later, the whole thing is gone, and all of a sudden liquidity is 100% drained, and Dex Tools changes the description of the project to rugged ? And and then but that is an outcome that you walk into this thing knowing completely is a possibility. So let me pull this back up here, and then we can get into a couple of the descriptions, or the definitions of a few of these things that we were just being asked about. So give me just a second.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome. There's Daniel. I see Lisa in the audience for the first time in a long time. Oh my gosh. I hope everybody who watches in the future on YouTube doesn't feel serious FOMO for this. This is one of those episodes I would feel a lot of FOMO. I feel a lot of FOMO when Alex texts me at 6:38 in the morning and it's a Pepe emoji just going like, because I know he's connected to something that I'm probably already too late on.
No, yeah, the market cap on this one is 70K.
Sounds appealing.
It looks terrible. It's like a dog with a large nose eating Pringles. Is it going to rug? Probably.
50-50, man.
All right. I'm sorry. Let's see. What was the question that we just had here?
We were talking about liquidity specifically. The difference between how do you measure? I don't remember how the question was worded. It was a superb question. They were talking about the distinction, though, because if the supply, they were talking about diluted supply, like circulating supply, fully diluted, that kind of stuff. Like,
that's right.
How do you draw the line? Make the distinction.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And you were going to pull up Dex screeners to show us that. Yeah. I think that's where you were going.
Let me find where they show diluted supply, because I know that is a listed metric.
Yeah, and I'm just strapping in for this because, like I said, Dex Screener. Alex called me last night and said, I actually like Dex Screener better than DexTools.io. And this is not a sponsorship, but it could be. And I would love to see Dex Tools and Dex Screener fight over who gets to sponsor our show.
To be clear, I thoroughly enjoy both of them. Yeah. There are, however, just like a few things that Dex Screener displays that Dex Tools doesn't. I will show you both of them for the same project side by side here in just a second. Lisa, where am I trading? 2 places: Radium, the Dex on Solana for Solana shitcoins, and then also just regular old Uniswap using Base.
You like Radium better than Jupiter?
No, not necessarily. I just have had Radium up, and Radium is like, the big one, so it's linked. And one of the cool features here, why are we still looking at my face when there's all these cool things to look at instead?
Yeah, hang on. I can make you big.
All right. I need to get like a better monitor setup here, just so that when I do this, it's not pointing you guys with a vertical screen at a ultra wide monitor, because who's that helpful for, really? All right, bear with me. God, this is so jank. Evan and I were just talking about creating a content creation empire, and as you can see, I'm off to a great start right now. Just the jankiest. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're looking at Deck Screener right here, and I'm gonna do my best to kind of pan back and forth to show you the specific things. So here is Base Jesus. All right, this is the
Look at that! Look at that beautiful meme.
This is the absolute pile of garbage that I was messing around with last night that got me the 10x. And as you can see, on the 1 hour, it's down 62%. However, on the 5 minutes, it's up 34%. So, when you're dealing with a market cap this small, with only 26K in liquidity, and a fully diluted valuation of 93K, so there's a big discrepancy there. That was the question about diluted supply, is basically just explaining that if the total supply of the cryptocurrency in question were to come onto the market at the current price, what would the market cap or the full valuation of the project be instead of what it is now? So
Right.
here,
right, because a lot of the time, all the tokens that exist in the contract are not all the tokens.
exactly.
That's a bigger amount than what is currently being traded for one reason or another.
And as you can see here, fully diluted and market cap are identical, because this particular piece of trash is a little bit less trashy in the sense that all of the tokens that exist are in circulation between the trading wallets right now. Now, this is still to say that, think about the impact that someone would have on a $27,000 liquidity pool if they were to pull out $10,000, right? They're going to cut that in almost half. So it's going to absolutely crater.
Yeah, big time.
So
and you might not be able to execute that kind of a trade. Sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where things like slippage settings on the decks that you're using come into play. Slippage basically just means the amount of fluctuation in the accepted price of the trade that you're willing to accept. And it's important because these things change so rapidly that from the time I might click trade and then confirm, the price has changed so much that it's impossible to execute the trade at the level that I was originally trying to submit it at. And so you have to, if you set your slippage up, basically the amount that you're willing to fluctuate, it will allow you to not have to go back and resubmit an entirely new trade, because it's telling it up front, like, hey, I'm willing to accept an up or down price movement of X%.
Alex, does Radium adjust it on the fly for you? And do you find that you have a lot of trades that don't go through because your slippage needs to be adjusted there, or is it pretty good?
I have not personally run into it. It does. I think I have Radium. Yeah, Radium is up right here. So it has a little timer that every 20 seconds it just refreshes what we're looking at here. Mm-hmm. And you can, click manually to auto refresh it. But no, there's none of that. It'll give you kind of like a price impact readout, like based on, what amount I'm theoretically about to trade, what does it project it's going to do to the price. But no, I know Jupiter also lets you do limits, and Radium doesn't have limits as an option that I've seen. So, one other reason.
Yeah, I would say I just asked you that because Jupiter, more than any other decks I've ever used, has I love their user experience, but one part of that is their slippage. I have never had to manually adjust my slippage, and I haven't looked back to see like what they're moving between. I don't think it's a high percentage, because something you didn't say that I want to articulate is that if you're taking, let's say you set your slippage to 10%, which is not uncommon for like a super volatile meme coin. That means if you're trading it at $1, you're willing to accept $1.10 or 90 cents. And the thing that's easy to forget is if you're looking at a trade and say it's moved 20%, it's easy to forget that slippage could take half of that 20% profit. I think Jupiter has some sort of smart adjust feature though, and you can set a range for what's acceptable. I've never had to touch it, and I've never had to touch it on Radium either, though I haven't used it as much as you, is why I asked. Because that's a new thing. I remember 3 years ago and 2 years ago and one, I don't know. It just seems like slippage has always been a thorn.
So I know that Radiums is also built into a point, because if I go to submit a trade and I don't have the most up-to-date price figures, it will auto like cancel the transaction and like force me to refresh. So you don't even really have the opportunity to get it messed up. But like I said, I've just personally never run into the issue. So I want to address Jim's question here, except I'll do it generally. So just like, how do I then make the determination? Okay, you know what? I'm over this. It's time to move on and sell it. Dude, okay. Don't worry about making me change the layout, Evan. I'm just going to show something real quick, real tiny.
Okay.
So
you're actually the same size this way.
Perfect. Anytime you're looking at a chart, where's my mouse? There we go. You can see, price. The price candles, the things we're all used to seeing. This is one of those things. Here's that beautiful meme coin risk really painted in red for you. But down underneath here, you have the volume, right? So like we can tell, obviously the volume here is significantly higher than here, is significantly higher than here, significantly higher than here, etc. So as I was watching this run up happen, because I bought it here. Actually, that's a lie. I bought it here. And then I watched it do this, and then I sold it right here. So I'm pretty proud of that one. But anyway, I was seeing just how high the volume was, and this is me. When Keegan gets in here, we can ask him for a better, more technical explanation.
I was just gonna say, don't forget, Keegan is coming in soon, so save your chart questions for him too. He's gonna have some good insight.
I'm absolutely gonna ask Keegan about TA on a 4-hour-old meme chart because I can already hear him. His ears are burning right now as I say TA on this piece of trash. So this isn't TA. I'm just pointing out. You can see the volume right here. So then when this happened, I saw this drop happen. So huge sell volume, right? Which, as you can see, really dropped the price down. So I'm looking at this thinking like, okay, swing back in, right? Let's try to continue to expand the bag. Do I think it's going to go up again? It's really fresh. Market cap was still super tiny. There was a bunch of hype, a bunch of froth down here in the transactions. I was like, okay, pretty good chance that it swings back up again. So rotate a little bit back in down here. And then I see this as the response, right? Super small volume compared to the amount that was caused this run up right here. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, this is now getting way more likely to not work out for me. So I didn't do too much. And then when this happened, I just sold it again and I called myself done. And that's where I went to bed because I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just like, this was really lackluster. And there were other memes at the same time that were pumping with higher volume. So I figured that's probably where the attention was going. Now, granted, overnight, all the sellers apparently went to bed and the sell pressure pretty much just completely disappeared. But you can see this is still like a really small amount of volume overall. And then the only time we see bigger volume was here on this sell-off because all of the people who bought here and here or bought up here and finally there's like, you know what, I'm sick of this. Like, that's what this crater here is. And so now it's interesting to see this is actually like, a little bit of something. And as you can see, it bumped the price up. So that's basically what I'm looking at, Jim. I'm just watching what is the price doing. I'm scanning down here for the holders to see how much are these holders sitting on in unrealized gains. And that is the single biggest like bonus for me using Dex Screener over Dex Tools is that I can read through the holders and see how much unrealized profit these wallets are sitting on. And if I'm looking at a flat meme chart that's like not currently ripping, and there's like 12 people that are sitting on thousands of dollars of profit off of a $20, $30, $40, $50 buy-in, I'm out. I'm out for sure, because dude, like, all of those guys are thinking the exact same thing. They are looking at this being like, is this the best place to be right now? Is this the thing? Like I said, the top trader in this one, here you go. The top trader in this one bought a grand total of $394 worth, and they sold $10,500 worth.
Yeah.
So that
did you show them that screen, that interface, how you can toggle those things? Because that's something you definitely ought to flip back and forth to.
Okay, so
hi Liz, hi everybody.
Price chart.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is coming right down here to the transactions interface, and you can, change this, make it bigger, all that good stuff. Transactions is the first one right here. Here's every buy and sell coming in. So as we can see here, some bigger buys coming in, not a ton of sells in the last 30 minutes, which is 100% why it's pumped up a smidge. Then you come over here, top traders. Here's the number one trading wallet. Here's the wallet address for the person. Here is how much they paid and they bought. There is how much they sold for. They did this over 6 transactions, 6 swings. And I can pull this out into the blockchain explorer. And here
you can see when.
Here's base scan. This is just like Etherscan, but for base instead. Here's the full transaction history for the wallet that I was just showing you. Latest 25 from total 618 transactions. I can scroll over. I can, look at everything. I can see they're actively trading right now.
They're trading a lot of stuff. I was going to see if you could give me some timestamps so I could show people like where on the chart they sold, but it looks like it might be tough from that.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. They were bumping all over the place, but
yeah, but 6 times they sold to do that from just 394. So they measure the top trader by profit, total profit.
Yep.
Wow. That's fantastic.
So, again, if this is something you're curious about tangling with, just know it's going to mess up at some point. None of these are foolproof. None of these are a guarantee or anything like that. So
yeah,
it's just a.
Well, thanks for sharing your adventure with us, because you're like a pirate on the open sea, man.
Yeah, man. This one in particular worked out for me, but I can tell you pretty confidently that like last bull market, there was a bunch of trades that I made that just didn't. It didn't work. I lost money on a bunch of them. I'm being more aggressive about it this time, to where if I look at something and it's green, double-digit percentages, especially right now, where there's literally a meme launching on every one of these networks every 30 seconds, I'm out. I'm walking away.
Now, real quick, before we get off this, and I know Keegan is coming, tell me where on Dex Screener you can see new pairs and new tokens. You might have covered this for everybody already, but I need to know, because this is a new tool. And while you do that, let me just say to Lisa, who said this is the why Gary wants to ban what we do. I get it. We're totally with you in the sense that we need helpful regulation for this stuff. I think gambling is great. Alex has said more than once, nothing wrong with a casino as long as you label it appropriately. We have a lot of fun in the casino. But that's because we know it's the casino. So please, show me where did you click to take it here? And also, am I lagging? Because I feel like I'm lagging a little bit, and I'm hoping if I'm in a rug that I do it before Keegan comes on.
Yeah, you are a tiny bit, but it's not egregious.
It seems better now. Okay, great.
Okay, so just like Dex Tools, honestly, you can hop over here and just kind of get your giant menu. New pairs will give you stuff that's launching. Here's another thing that I enjoy more than Dex tools. So over here, I've got the pair. I'm currently looking at. I've got, what filters do I have on? Oh, just liquidity and pair age. Yeah, so there's just way more filters over here, but this is every chain. So a lot of Solana stuff right here, but you can see just a couple more things. So trend over the last various time periods, current liquidity. Like our earlier question was, what the current fully diluted valuation is. So you can see an immediate stark side by side contrast of what is what's here and what's theoretically here. The bigger this gap, the crazier these things can be. Current price, how old is it? So look at these things. These fucking things are just a couple hours old most of the time. So there are zero names attached to these things. They're all anonymous. It is a slot machine that you're pulling, is 100%. All right, the man of the hour. Let me fix
That's
this.
right. I'm gonna go ahead and fix the expansion here. And do you want to give an introduction, Alex?
Sure. Yeah, I'll.
And then we'll kick
Okay,
it
over. I'll read you in here, and then you can set the record straight and correct me if I mess this up. But just because he's probably not going to brag about himself too much, I'll do it for him. So, Fred, I'll get to that in a second, because I don't necessarily disagree, but I think there's a way we can talk about this. Anyway, Keegan MagicInternetMoney is notorious in and around the space, as far as I'm concerned. Started on TikTok, not really doing too much over here anymore. I think you're mostly YouTube now. Is that right?
I actually started on YouTube, and then I moved to TikTok because I got banned on YouTube in the last bull run.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a story. But at any rate, the thing that originally drew me to him the last cycle when we became acquaintances was just the attitude that he had when he approached these things. So, claim to fame, technical analysis in and around cryptocurrency, but just like raw information. It's like the difference between listening to Fox News with most channels and then listening to like PBS or NPR, where I'm just getting like raw information that has zero opinions attached to it. We are just here reading facts, and I don't give a shit whether you like what I have to say or not, because I'm just going to tell you what it is. So that was it was a really refreshing perspective to find in the space, because quite simply, and Keegan, I'm going to ask you to kind of get into this a little bit too. There's a tremendous amount of TA in my feed constantly. And I can't help but look at it, not being someone who is familiar with TA or is good at it by any stretch of the imagination, and just thinking to myself, like, God, what a steaming pile of shit all of this looks like. Like, I just, we're just drawing shit all over the place, and you're just making up numbers, and it just looks like nonsense. And then you're just telling me that all of these indicators point to it absolutely ripping, so you should buy it or whatever. And it's just gross and shilly.
Honestly, their TA is less useful. Whereas when you see people like that re-entering the space, you know that the shillers and the hype is back, because a lot of this market runs on hype. Very few things actually have any real world value or will, and even if they do on paper, that doesn't mean it'll materialize into something. I think people fail to realize how many startup companies that have good intentions and good ideas don't make it. It doesn't mean, it's just one of those things where you talk to anyone that's started a successful project or company. They probably failed a few times before that at other endeavors, and then they'd find either something new or tweak what they were already doing. But the people in this market, I wouldn't say it's an infantile market anymore, but it's still pretty early in terms of like looking at like the stock market by comparison. So people get really excited about it, and they make videos, and the internet has definitely changed that, because everybody's got an opinion, and what's really upsetting is everybody has an angle to try to make money off of other people. I think that's kind of the big one. That's the elephant in the room is, monetizing your audience. And I think that there's correct ways to do it. And I think that then there's people that are just disingenuous and just are looking for a money grab at the right time. But once those people re-enter the space, their TA, I don't really look at their TA. I'm just like, okay, they're shilling this, this, and this. It doesn't mean I want to buy that project. It means I need to start looking around and be like, okay, where are we at in the cycle? Like, are we back?
Yeah.
So
in that kind of vein, first, I'm curious kind of how you got into this, because I know you've been doing it for a while. I know you've been trading for a while. So, as much as you feel like you want to share, sure. How did you get into it? Where did you start learning? And I guess, do you have any go-to resources if someone's like me? I have barely an understanding of what TA is. I'm trying to get a feel for it, or at least be able to like spot bullshit when I see it.
So what got me into the space wasn't necessarily, I was working in sales, and my manager was really big into the crypto, like kind of like we just talked about, where it's like, this is 2017. And so everything's ripping. I don't know if you guys were in that. I think you were in that cycle. I think you remember that one. And he told me about XRP of all things. And, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole, and man, they sold me the entire cow. So I bought XRP at 3 cents, and I was ecstatic because it went to $3.30. I was like, oh man, I just made a crap ton of money. I did not realize any of those gains. I rode it all the way down to like $1 before I finally jumped out of it. And I was like, fuck, I really thought this was going to go, the targets that they'd given. And I was watching like 3, 4, 5 videos a day from different creators on XRP every day. And I was like, oh man, these guys, they really know what they're talking about. And then price just wasn't reflecting that at all. And I was like, okay, I clearly don't understand how markets work. So I wanted to figure that out. And I got on YouTube, and I just started kind of looking, and I came across this guy named Crypto Bitcoin Chris out of Georgia. Really nice guy. Really basic TA patterns. That's all it was patterns and Fibonacci. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start here. It was like $9.99 a month to join this guy's Telegram. I got in there, and there was like 200 people. I was like one of the first people. I was like, oh, this is great. Now he had like 6,000 people in there last bull run, I think is what I saw. So he's really kind of grown with it. But that just kind of went down the rabbit hole. One day I was in there and posting charts and doing stuff. And I kind of like cemented my foothold in there. That was one of the guys that people looked up to, because I spent a lot of time on it. It was something I just started obsessing about and reading books and anything I could get my hands on. And then some dude out of Australia named Newt hit me up and was like, hey, do you want to do this for a living? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I've got a group. I want you to teach in it. He's like, what you're doing over here for free, paying to do this actually, he's like, is very valuable. So why don't you come over here and work for me? And that's kind of what started the whole thing. And then he was like, you need to make content though. I want you to make videos. So I started making YouTube videos. And then we parted ways in 2020 in November. And I actually did not do anything in the last bull run that was monetized. I ran a free group. I had like thousands of people that would join Discord and ask me how to do TA. And I was, at my computer like 16 hours a day anyway at that point. So whatever,
yeah.
I was just hanging out, making friends.
For context, you were also in our free Discord last bull run.
Bingo.
Teaching a class every single week. Completely for free and open, and just answering questions. I mean, you sat there for hours sometimes. I mean, I would be on duty. I'd see you start the stream, and 2 hours later, he's still there answering questions and stuff. So, I mean, he's been in and around the free education space for a while, which is one of the reasons we got along so well.
Yeah, I think information is ultimately, it should be free. Like, I don't really gatekeep much when like we go live. Obviously, I have like a Discord right now, and it is a paid service, but it's $11 a month. And the only reason I did that was because last bull run, I made the mistake of making it free in the sense that it got overwhelming because there's really only one of me. And I would get the DMs I would get and the messages that would go on in Discord were crazy. And I found myself not being able to pull myself away from it or slow down the people coming in. Eventually, one day, I just told everyone in that group, I was like, hey, really enjoyed this with you guys. Just so you know, this is kind of the top here at like 64, that first one. I was like, I'm looking for like 29K, and I'm going to nuke this Discord. So you guys can follow me online. And then, yeah, so that went down. I ended up working with CVO a little bit after that and helping him out with his Discord. Right. And he is now kind of like like a little mini protege. He's got like a system that he's adopted that I kind of go through now. But yeah, that's the only reason I even charge at this point, is because it kind of slows down the trickle. Like, I have done zero advertising for this thing. I just kind of like launched it and put it on Twitter in my bio, and there's like 170 people in there now. So it's if it was one of those things where I was like making YouTube videos every day again, there'd be 600, 700, 800 people in there in like a matter of weeks. And that's just a workload that I don't think most people want to take on, because it is a lot of work. Believe it or not, people have questions, lots of them. But if you guys are starting somewhere, I would just recommend finding some people. It doesn't even have to be me, that you like watching on YouTube. Eric Crown Crypto is a really good one. You can go to TikTok. I don't know who's really on TikTok anymore. I don't get on here as often. The only reason I left TikTok, by the way, was got a little burnout because the audience here is very interactive, and the feedback loop that you get from TikTok is so fast, comparatively speaking to like Twitter or YouTube. Like, you can grow insanely fast on TikTok, and people, they just scroll and swipe. And my content's kind of long form, in the sense that, I do a lot of explanations and stuff, and that's not really built for TikTok too much. But I go live, and like I said, I don't really gatekeep. So like anything that I'm teaching in there, like that I have in a video or in like one of our classrooms that we do, I'll just openly do it in a live stream. Like, I just did a live stream the other day on like how you could basically be trading the bull market and like trading breakout all-time highs. And their guys probably charging boatloads of money, hundreds of dollars a month for that same shit, which it blows my mind. Yep. But yeah, I mean, just find someone you trust, vet their content, of course. Always go back and check their content, see if they're shilling junk projects, things like that. If you find anyone that claims to be a TA channel and you catch them shilling projects, like junk projects, that's your number one giveaway that probably isn't a source that you want to be getting your information from. That's what I would say.
In that vein,
go ahead.
Sorry, can you expand just a little bit on, maybe something that might jump out to you, or a couple things that might jump out to you that would be red flags if someone was trying to vet a channel, but they didn't really have a tremendous wealth of prior context, with which to make a judgment on whoever they're trying to figure out if it's worth listening to?
Yeah, because just to elaborate on that question, Keegan, you said it at the start. A lot of people will get on with confidence and tell you why VeChain, because it solves this great problem for an important industry that affects so many people, is going to the moon. But they don't have even the awareness to understand their own lack of perspective and context. But they're so compelling.
Yeah. Sometimes people are doing it because they are just really enthusiastic. But a lot of times they're doing it because they see an opportunity to capture an audience that might be, I wouldn't say use the term gullible, but that is either equally excited or has the ability to become excited. And if you can get someone excited about something, you can generally sell them something. So if I catch someone that's really trying to get an audience worked up, and I hate to use this one because it's like the cliche one in the space, XRP. That audience has been monetized to death by XRP influencers. And they just sold them down the river a little bit with all this like news and fundamental stuff that really wasn't verified at all anyway. But got them excited, got them to probably pay for, Discords, probably got them to pay for all kinds of stuff. And beyond that, you got to think, we live in an age where information is no longer really mainstream in terms of, like, you mentioned CNN earlier. Like, I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched CNN or Fox News or any of that stuff. I go to the internet, I go to Twitter, or I go to YouTube, or even on Instagram or Facebook. Like, you've got Reels, they're feeding you information now, and people know that they can monetize that. So if you can get people excited and capture an audience at a moment when the market's really, really ripping, even if they're not selling you a course or selling you whatever, an NFT, whatever it may be, they're trying to capture you so that they can profit off of your viewership and whatever else it may be. That isn't necessarily always facetious. Maybe they truly believe in that project, but to me, anyone that's getting like overly emotional or, pitting you against other ideas, like this almost applies to everything. But if you find someone that's, saying this is an absolute and you shouldn't even consider the alternative, That's probably your number one red flag. And your number two red flag is the confidence thing you just talked about. Like, I consider myself pretty good at TA. Even I'm like, hey, just so you guys know, this is all hypothetical. Like, these are what if scenarios, and the market really can do whatever it wants. And you have to understand that you're going to be wrong. And you shouldn't be telling people like, hey, this is exactly what's going to happen. You can just say, this is a blueprint. This is a path, that if and then statements type thing. But it's definitely, it's definitely tough. I've really toned back how much content I take in terms of other influencers. Sometimes I'll scroll thumbnails on YouTube. That's a usually good indicator. Like, but everyone does the O face now. I think I'm like the only influencer that doesn't do that. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how that became a thing, but someone like apparently discovered an algorithm that if you do that, your video gets more content clicks. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate.
That's Mr. Beast 101.
I asked Alex one time to take a series of photographs for goofy thumbnails, so I have all kinds of incriminating photos of Alex going, and stuff like that. It's great.
Yep, that's over my head every day of my life.
That's my least favorite question, is when I go on other people's channels a lot. Obviously, haven't been making a ton of content. I've just been going on and doing interviews weekly for other people, and doing my TA there live, and again, free. It's like, okay, I just come on here and it's just something I do because I can. They're always like, send me a selfie, and I'm like, oh, they're like, can you send one where like your mouth? I'm like, no, I can't do that for you at all. Like, in fact, here's a picture of my dog. You can use that if you want. Otherwise, you're going to have to source that picture yourself. Like,
yeah.
They've gotten creative though. Some of them gotten very creative. They've like found me, my social medias on like Twitter or YouTube from like way back in the day, or like even TikTok, and they'll take a picture and do that.
When I first found you, you were, if I'm not mistaken, a faceless channel. You were.
I certainly was. Yep.
Yeah. I remember the day we finally got to.
Yeah, I think I remember a face
line.
You know what's terrible is that a lot of people thought I was going to be like some nerdy, ugly dude. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, no, people were like, he's handsome, man. How'd this guy get so hot?
Yeah. Not
it was weird.
TA, but he's a looker as well. God damn it.
So if the trading goes bad, dude, you could always, take the emotion out of it and take your shirt off.
There you go.
Just give the people
OnlyFans. It's OnlyFans TA. In a different life, I'm sure that would have been fine. But as an upstanding father now, I don't know how I would feel about it.
Okay, so
you got me 10 years ago, maybe, but
back. I do also remember that one of the things that stuck out was your bio at the time was just straight up: don't be bullish, don't be bearish, take the best trades.
Yeah, still there.
Still there. And yeah. I remember that just being a thing, because one of the things that really turned me off from a lot of different creators, because I made an effort to learn at least a little bit about TA so that I could, try to make a determination for myself, like, okay, this is garbage, this is not, and then you start to, be able to point out problems. Like one of the things I wanted to ask you about, is we've been talking about shit coins quite a bit. Obviously, they're pretty hyped up. And, whenever I run across a channel that is like showing me a meme coin that is, 36 hours old, and they're doing TA on that chart.
There's no TA for that.
Right.
There is and there isn't. Like there's like low time frame day trading TA, but like at the same time, it's like it's the hype cycle, man. It's the age old saying is, what is it? A rising tide lifts all ships, right? So when we look at Bitcoin and we look at where we are in the market, you can just throw a dart almost and make money. Now, some are going to make more money, and which ones stand the best chance to go up more? The ones with no market cap, really. So that's all they're doing, is they're just saying, well, if I'm looking for 100x or a 50x, right? If I risk 1%, and this is a viable strategy, believe it or not, if I risk like 1% on each one to win 50, times that, right? And I take 50 of those trades, I don't have to win very many to come out ahead. You know what I mean?
Nope.
Yeah. I think. So it's a math game, and very few people understand that. I don't have the patience or the time to go through Discords, and because that's what you have to do. You gotta be in Telegram groups. You gotta be in Discords. You gotta find out when things are launching. What does this thing do? Does it actually have any real, use case? What chain is it on? Where can I buy it? Where can I sell it? What's the marketing team like? The people that really get into that stuff, and get into the meme coins and stuff, those guys, they clean up, and the risk to reward is such a disparity. Like, you may lose that entire investment you put in there, but on another one, it may 100x. So you don't really care about losing. Let's say you're using $100 increments. If you lose $100 over here, but you make 10 grand on this one over here, or even $1,000, that $100, straight to zero doesn't really matter. But again, it's not like it's just easy where anyone can do that. It's not realistic. If that was, everybody would just trade shit coins all day and nobody would work. Those guys that are actually successful at it are probably putting in, like I said, hours and hours of research. And I know it sounds dumb, but they're on Discord and Telegram, finding out where these things are, getting to know those communities, getting to know those projects. And, and then you have them, a lot of those guys are big influencers. One of the biggest one is Cousin Crypto. Really good at finding low cap gems, but also notice, he's shilling you those gems on Twitter. Like, some of them are really good picks, but I guarantee you he's being paid to do that a little bit. I'll guarantee it based on his post. Is there anything
or at the
wrong
very
with
least
that?
he's attracting offers from people who see that he's doing that kind of thing and are tempting him to take their money?
Oh yeah, I mean, it goes on a lot more than you'd think. I've never accepted any of it. I usually just don't even respond to the email. That's usually how they contact you, is they get on you an email, or they'll try to get at you on a, whatever platform, like TikTok, the DMs, whatever it was. I've never actually responded to any of them or taken a paid promo. The only one I almost took was actually for a gambling website, and it was because it's called OddsJam. It's a statistical model for finding arbitrage opportunities across different books. And the only reason is he emailed me, and he was like, I've been following you for a long time. I really like your channel. He's like, if you want, I'll give you a free account. I was like, I already have an account. It's like $2,500 a year to have that account. And I was like, oh, I got a free account. Sweet. He's like, if you want, you can make a video. I don't really care. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, if you just want to say that you have OddsJam and like put the link in your bio, he's like, go for it. Otherwise, you can still keep it if you don't. I was like, all right, sweet, man. So that was like the closest I ever came to a promo.
That's a good pitch, man. Keep it or don't. I don't care.
Yeah, no, he was cool. He's like, I've made a bunch of money. He's like, because when I was making content, and I said I was shorting the market and I wasn't going to close it. That was in 2022, and Bitcoin's trading up around 47. And I was like, I'm just not going to close this. I'm targeting November of 2023 for when I'm looking to get out of it. So yeah, he just was like, all right, cool. He said, I got out everything. He's like, the market's been tanking ever since. He's like, I haven't made a bunch of money, but I'm not losing. So yeah.
Keegan, we have a couple of questions over here, and
sure.
Of course, feel free to direct this where you want to go. But one of them, Alex, stop me if I'm getting too far back or not far enough. Is Jim asks, are you looking at, in your technical analysis, does your definition of technical analysis include use case? Is it solely charts? What do you look at more? And can you just zoom in on that definition for us a little bit?
Yeah, this is a really good question. This one rubs people the wrong way for whatever reason, depending on what community you're in. I look at zero use case. I honestly don't even know, like, I'm not even up to date on like the fundamentals of Bitcoin anymore in terms of like who's using it worldwide, whatever. I only look at the chart. And the reason I do is because that's what's going to give me an actionable edge in terms of making decisions and averting risk. So strong fundamentals are represented in strong charts, is what I tell people.
So like they're a proxy for what is actually the data.
That doesn't mean that if a chart looks really good, doesn't mean it doesn't have good fundamentals. It just means that that's not my forte, because I don't believe that I could be making decisions on a daily basis, because I trade. I can't make those decisions every day based on fundamentals. I have to make those on other things, but it does affect my long-term investing. And I assume Jim is an XRP guy, because I think I saw something about that earlier. And this one is where I said it rubbed people the wrong way. So when I came into TikTok, I didn't really have very many followers. I mean, it was like the summer of 21. We hadn't even peaked yet. And XRP had already run up to like $1.96, I think. And I put out a video and I said, I hate to rub you guys the wrong way, but XRP is going to 29 cents. And that took over a year to happen, but it finally did. I went back and I screenshotted every single reply that told me I was an idiot, all this stuff. And I had like 150 or 200 followers when that happened. And that video got like 10,000 views. So to me, I was like, oh man, TikTok could actually be onto something. But I mean, people blasted me because they're like, you don't understand the fundamentals, blah, blah. I was like, I was like, I'll be upfront with you, man. Like the chart's not that bad. It's just you're looking at it all wrong. The chart just says more than likely we're heading down. Like we've got some inefficiencies down there. You're really putting in a lot of positive delta at the top here, and now these guys are getting buried. And so what that means is you have all these buyers at the top, right? You don't want to buy at the top because once you're put underwater, then there's sell pressure that comes in from bigger people. Basically, they'll see, okay, we know these positions are underwater. Let's go ahead and actually bring in market sells. What happens when they start pushing price down and those buyers get underwater? Well, they either freak out and they sell, which creates another sell, or they get liquidated, which creates another sell, or they can do nothing if they're just holding. It creates a bag holder, right? But that's how you create fuel for bigger moves down. And so that is kind of, one of those things where I was like, oh man, this looks a lot like 14K for Bitcoin. I'm expecting XRP to revisit the lows of its range. 29 cents is the most logical place, just looking at the volume profile. That's where I was looking for. That's what it hit. And there was a really big reversal pattern there in terms of like harmonics. So for me, he was asking about that chart. Is it a dead project or is there any hope for it? Of course there is. I actually just put out a video on it on YouTube. There are some setups and some things I've been watching for several years on that chart that could, spell close to all-time highs for the chart again. That would imply the market keeps going up. However, I can tell you that if it doesn't make any new highs and it does break back below, say, 47 cents, you're probably gonna hit 19 cents, maybe lower. So that's why I say the charts to me matter the most, because I can make those decisions on a chart like XRP and say that, I don't know what the fundamentals are in terms of like how the project's doing, anything like that. But I can tell you where to buy it and sell it high and low based on, other buyer seller interactions. That's all I can really do.
So just to clarify, Jim says no, he's not in the XRP. He just thinks that to him, low caps become high caps if they demonstrate consistent use.
Yeah,
but what you said just now about watching something for years, can I follow up on that for a second?
Sure.
Someone else asked, how do you stay if you're following something for years? I'm sure there's technical analysis you do daily that helps you make decisions, and then stuff that you're just adding to a data pile for later. But how do you stay unemotional and more specifically nimble? How can you change your mind like that when you see data? And do you track a lot of stuff that long term?
Yeah, I track almost everything that long term. Any chart that you see me like regularly looking at, I probably have its entire history of like chart breakdown. And I can do that now in like 20, 30 minutes pretty easily. I can go through and I can get every single level I need. I can look at all the averages of price pretty quickly. I can convert those into targets or not. And then I can turn around and use volume profile and fibs. I can do that all in like 20, 30 minutes. Every Sunday, I do a chart build for a random asset for people. And whatever they choose, I go through and I literally start at the very beginning of it. And I work it all the way to a trading plan from the high time frames and low time frames for them. And it takes about 2 hours right now with the explanations, because I do really slow down and tell them, okay, this is why we're not marking this level. This is why we are marking this one. But yeah, I mean, I like to track everything. It's a bit of I would almost say it's almost a flaw, but it serves me so well that I don't think it is yet. It is time consuming though. But yeah, Bitcoin's my biggest one. I have all the data for XRP because, again, that was one that I kind of revenge traded once I got good at this. Like when XRP was sitting at 23 cents, I remember I said it was going to go to 86 cents. I think it went to 80 cents. And then as it was dumping, I was like, this thing's going to nuke, but it's got legs. I think it could go back to the top of the range around 196. So I got back in, wrote it up. I think I got out at $1.85, and then I told everyone 29 cents, and then I got in at 29 cents, sold at 92, hit 95, which was the target. So you're always front running your targets a little bit, and I've just kind of been sitting around and mulling. But I did recently buy again. I put it on Twitter just so that people know. But it was one of those things where, like, yeah, I do track those things. And even a coin like XRP that may never make new all-time highs again can be traded. There's a lot of volume on it. It's a fairly large asset in terms of crypto still. But yeah, I mean, I go through and I review all the past information if it's there. I think it's extremely helpful, actually. And I would advise people to start on the high time frames. So one of the things to stay nimble that I do is as I'm making these, you can literally you can select a text box on TradingView and you can write notes in it, and then you can hide it, and then you can unhide it, right? So you can go back and review your notes anytime you want. You just have to click the button and it'll show up on your screen. So I'll do that, and I'll literally write out notes. Like I had one on Filecoin. I don't remember if you guys remember the hype behind Filecoin. I'll actually pull it up.
Yeah.
Filecoin had a huge hype, and I got asked to build that one back in February of 2022. Yeah. I was in Leading Crypto with them, and I hurt some feelings on that one because I think it was trading at like $25 or $30, and I just was like, man, this thing's going to like $4. And everyone just couldn't believe it. But I wrote notes out for people so that they could actually see it. Let me see if I can't flip my camera here.
Sure thing.
Nope. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I keep everything in my object tree, and you can see I've got notes.
Keegan, you might have to do it one more time. Sometimes on the live stream here, it doesn't show us the first time. You might just flip.
There we go. I'm
all
just
the
talking
time.
to you guys like an old guy trying to take a picture.
Yeah.
So notes, right? You got notes right there, and I'm trying to talk and drive. And all you got to do is you can go to your settings if you want, and you can review them, right? And people were saying there's weekly bullish divergence on the RSI, and this is all the way back here, right here in this price action. Everyone was calling for it, and so essentially I was looking for, what kind of a structure break am I going to get? And in those notes, you'll also notice that it does give invalidation. So how do you stay nimble is you kind of figure out where you're right and you're wrong, right? And you got to confirm the low for that to even happen, because you have to understand that the RSI is a lagging indicator and it does rely on market structure. So we'd have to regain the yearly open. That yearly open is all the way up here at $34. That would have confirmed that divergence that everyone was like on about. It was leading essentially. So I was looking for it to dump down into my buy box, which is where we've been kind of chilling for quite some time. That was the buy zone that was given. So, and it's just a matter of staying patient. I set alerts, always have your notes handy. So you know that, if the 2021 low and 12M level is SR flipped, which we did, likely see all-time low demand zone, which was marked out right here at the all-time lows. Now in terms of fundamentals, so I will hurt some feelings on this one. Look at this chart. That's a terrible fucking chart. Excuse my language, but that is a Christmas tree. You don't want Christmas trees. You want stuff like this. You want stuff like not just Bitcoin. You go to Link. I know that everybody kind of is tired of hearing about Link probably, but Link is got a phenomenal chart. We go to the monthly, for instance, and just looking at it. I posted this one on Twitter. I said, are you bearish on this chart? Because there's a lot of people into meme coins right now. But when you look at it, how many cryptos look like this, where it starts here, you've got higher lows the entire way, and now you're going to be pressing into a higher high probably and just following the trend. So like when you're looking at the beginning of an asset that has really good fundamentals, it's generally represented in the chart.
And can you said higher lows as one example, but good versus bad when you're just looking at a glance, higher lows is one.
Yep. Yeah, higher lows. I would also look at, in terms of like volume. Is it actually being traded? Or is this just something that's being propped up? And then, if you wanted to get into use case, you could at that point. To me, though, I don't really do too much of that. Like, I actually don't even really still know what Link does. I got into Link at like sub $1 in 2020 at the COVID crash. I had a friend that, I was working for, that guy out of Australia. He was like, oh, my biggest bag is Link. I go, why are you into Link? And he was like, oh, you have to get in. It's like an Oracle. And I was like, I still don't even know what an Oracle is, man. I mean, I've been in the space since like 2017, and I just don't even care. When people ask me why I don't do it, I'm like, because it's never affected a decision that I've made in terms of money. And any decision I have ever made in terms of fundamentals, like the one with XRP when I didn't sell, has cost me money. So I just buy based on the charts only, because it's the only thing that I have control over at that point that allows me to control my risk and feel good about it. Because fundamentally, where do I have a stop loss? If I'm trading fundamentals, where's my stop loss on that trade? Is it 0?
Yeah.
That's a terrible idea for most people, unless you're really mitigating risk and you're playing like a risk reward set where it allows you to have, assets go to 0 and your portfolio is still okay. But that's a high risk, high reward thing. And that's too.
You can sit here at your computer mostly for, no additional cost and get all the information you need versus I went to a Filecoin party in East Denver one year and I thought it was great. And I was like, these guys are front running because they don't have product market fit. It might go down. That was an expensive piece of information and it might have been wrong because it was my subjective filter. You just looked at the chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're good. If you're looking at, because you mentioned, taking, a larger time frame snapshot for yourself in order to make a determination. Do you have, any kind of rule of thumb for like what constitutes, a legitimate time frame versus something that just doesn't have enough data for you to, make what you would call?
That's actually that's a good question. You really have to kind of delineate what kind of investment you're making. Like, is this an investment that I'm just riding the cycle, or am I making this investment because I think it's something I want to hold for 4 to 10 years, like with Bitcoin. So on Bitcoin, my predominant timeframes I work off of are generally the weekly, monthly, and quarterly. So I go pretty high time frame on there, and if I'm day trading it, which is where I spend most of my time day trading anyway, I'll be down on like the 1 and the 5 minute. Doing smaller position size, of course, because you're not trading those time frames with as much size. Like a large portion of your investment capital should be exactly that, investment, right? So when you're going to these smaller tokens, you kind of have to keep that in mind. If they don't have like a lot of data, weekly, daily charts, you can invest some at the beginning, but as you get more data, if the chart is strong, don't be afraid to invest more. People fail to realize that in most books that you'll read on investing is they don't say, just buy low, sell high. They say buy with the trend. And if the trend is up, it's just like everybody in Bitcoin right now. The trend is up. It's been up for a long time. And everyone and their dog has just been shorting every opportunity that they can. I've taken a few shorts. I shorted 49K. I shorted 53K. I shorted the all-time high break initially because I knew that we'd probably get a little bit of a throwback. And I shorted 73,244 recently. But these are all like very short-term positions given that the trend is up. I'm not marrying these positions. It's a terrible idea. So buying into an uptrend, a strong uptrend, is really good actually. And if it's on a daily, maybe don't put as much weight as like a monthly chart. Like that was a monthly chart we just looked at with Link. That's a very good monthly chart. You could go to the quarterly, it looks good as well. Another one that I'm interested in that I'm not putting as much capital in, is I'm watching. I haven't actually done anything with it yet, but somebody introduced me to Caspa's chart, and I don't know anything about this. I was on, who was it? I was on with T Shroom from Investing Bros. I had met them back in the day when they were still with Jeb, and they had me on, and we kind of became friends. They're good dudes, but they asked me about Caspa, and I'd never heard about that thing. I've heard the name, but I'd never like looked at the chart or really cared about it. But like this is something that doesn't really have a lot of data, and I'll turn my camera back around, and that way you guys can kind of see what's going on here.
Yeah, Caspa's definitely made the social media rounds pretty heavily, which is always like my biggest turnoff. It's like, dude, if everyone that is on my feed is like relentlessly yelling in my face about something, I'm like, dude, I don't even care to learn about it anymore.
It's so hard to not do it when the chart looked really good because you have to think that when Caspa was looking good, the rest of the market was still kind of like putting in a low. So it wasn't they hadn't quite bottomed yet, or they had bottomed, but they really haven't like broken their range for like of consolidation.
Right.
And some of them, when they broke out, only broke out a little bit. They didn't break out hundreds of percent. They broke out like 50%. They're underperformers, so to speak. But this one was kind of an overperformer for the entire market. You can see that this was inception, and these are higher lows, right?
All I can see are your stunning traps.
Oh, yeah. And what did I... Oh, man. All right. So higher lows. It took me a second. It's the most boomer moment ever. Yeah, you guys can tell I don't get on TikTok anymore. Yeah. So this is the low, and you can see that you just got nothing but higher lows. Like, and this is a daily chart, so there's not as much information. There is about a year, but yeah, there's not as much. So I'm not going to invest as much into this one because I don't really know yet. Everyone's like, oh, if I went all in down here, I'd be super rich. And like, yeah, maybe somebody does do that, but that's pretty risky and kind of stupid. And the odds of you actually holding it this long are pretty low. People sell faster than you think. So very few people actually hold like this. It's kind of like original Bitcoin holders. There's not very many people that bought it like $1 or $100 or even like $200 and held on to that, or $1,000. A lot of them got out already long before 20K. And then they, probably bought back in higher eventually. But there's an age-old saying where I think it's Jesse Livermore. If a stock is acting right and the market's acting right, you shouldn't just sell it because it makes a new high. You should be looking to actually average into positions in strong trends. You got to do it like somewhat deliberately, I guess is the word to use, but be a little bit delicate with how you're, dispersing that new capital. But yeah, I mean, you want to own things that are doing this. Now, the moment that music stops, generally there's signs, there's blow off tops, things like that you can start looking for. Kind of like the last Bitcoin cycle. There are signs that could happen that would be weakness. Like for this one, for instance, if you give up these lows, right, there's really nothing here. We're on a weekly chart, and it'll look even better on a daily. So below these lows, you have a little bit of a consolidation here, but there's really nothing there. I don't have to do much TA to kind of know that if we start flipping this into resistance, like, because I'm expecting this to come down. We've actually been waiting for it to come down into the range a little bit. That's where we're thinking about potentially getting it. But if you lose these lows, you're probably coming down to like 5 to 3 cents. That's a pretty big drop from 14. That's a huge drop. So, and that would shake out a lot of people. And believe it or not, even at that, the trend is actually still kind of intact. Because technically your higher low here is coming in this region. So you could come all the way down. This is where people, like I said, they don't hold through all these market dumps and pumps, because this will get someone really emotional. If someone bought down here and they'd held all the way up here, all the way to 19 cents. I don't know what the bottom of this thing is. Let's just call it less. Oh man, that's like 1/10 of a penny. So they went like thousands X all the way up to here, right? They're probably going to sell on an 80% or 70% dump down from 19 cents to like 5 or 3, even though in reality this trend is still well intact, right? You can take out like a polyline tool and you can just go, where's my trend? So as long as I'm holding onto this zone, realistically, this chart's actually still fine. But the moment you lose this, I would say, yeah, all hell's breaking loose. You might even break a penny.
And you're measuring it against that previous low, right?
Yeah, I'm just strict market structure. That's all we're doing.
Okay.
Just breaks the market structure there. It's just something that I know it sounds really, really simple, and like it can't be that simple. Believe it or not, a lot of the trades that I make are that simple. It's just looking at, okay, where might demand be? And then I go down there and I wait for the reaction. And what do I mean by wait for the reaction? Like, here's a really good example. Like, let's say I was waiting for this, because this is technically a weekly level that I would normally mark out, right? Let's say I'm waiting for this level. Do I just preset for it and just hope that it pans out? Probably not. It did. It would have been great if I had done that.
I want to slow you down just real quick. When you say wait for that level, you're saying we're going back in time to when it's at that price where you've set this line, and we're waiting to see if it will go up or down.
Yeah, let's say that we've reached this candle right here, and I just hit the replay button on this, by the way, so you can just kind of see. Let's say I've reached this, and I know that this is a level that I could be wanting to trade at. I've marked it out. Doesn't mean we're going to come back to it. We've obviously skipped through a lot of levels before. But, I'm one of those people, I don't really chase things. I usually like to buy on a pullback. So for me, looking at this, I'd go, okay, I've got a nice weekly level here. On the daily, is there anything else there? Maybe, maybe not. But going to go ahead and know that this is going to be key for me, right? So again, we're talking market structure. Okay, now I'm on the daily. What's key for me? All right, well, if we come up here, I'd like to hold this to continue the immediate trend. If this doesn't hold, then I'll probably be challenging these lows right here. And I do have a naked point of control there. But then I start to wonder, will we put in a bigger consolidation potentially? So if I'm looking for immediate upside on a trending asset, which this one's trending pretty hard, this is probably, the low that I want to hold right around, what is that, 0.009 cents. Whereas the order that if you, in theory, if you just placed it, would be at 1.2 cents. So not too far away, but kind of percentage wise. Now, as you play this, you're coming down to the level, right? You can see that you're putting in a bit of a top here. You're no longer making higher highs. You've hit the level. Where do I go from here? This is where zooming out kind of really helps. You're on the daily. There's no real clear setup on the daily here. However, if you go to the weekly time frame, you'll start to notice that some people call this a pin bar. I refer to it as a swing failure pattern. It's one of the first videos I made on TikTok in 2020 actually was swing failure patterns and how to trade them on like the low time frames. This is a medium time frame, weekly level, weekly closure back above the prior week's low at support for the trend. So for me, I'm looking at that as I should probably be a buyer. Stop loss goes below this low now. I'm just looking to see if maybe we retest our newfound support here, which is this weekly low. You see how it's retested it? Yeah. Yep. So I would normally basically set for a retest here or a gold pocket. I'd buy, stop loss below the low so I could work out my position size and then take it to either the next high or the next level that I'm looking for, or try to ride this trend, which it's obviously going to go ahead and do. I'm going to cancel that because it's, how do I do that? It's a good question. Yeah, I want to exit that. Boom. So yeah, that's how I would have treated that situation. And I'm kind of waiting for a similar one when we come down to here. You can see that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 8 or 9 weeks right here at the lows. So this is all weekly candles. So if we start re-entering this area, I would like to start taking a look at it and seeing what it's got to offer me in terms of a trade setup. But what I can say is if you lose this support that it did kind of set in before it broke up here, it's a fairly bearish interaction. You can see right here, like just treat this like a range. It's hard to talk and drive on TikTok. So you can see what you've done here.
You're doing great.
You've taken the lows.
You're doing great, man.
You've taken the lows and now you're going to take the highs, right? And this is something that I did call out on with T-Shroom when he had me look at it. I was like, okay, you've taken the lows. One would expect to probably take the highs here. And then it becomes a question of, does it come back into the range and put in something larger here? Or does it continue up? The only trade at that time would have been a long, and this would have been a take profit for me. Not getting completely out, but I would have at least taken a chunk, given how hard this has ran and whatnot. But you're coming back in the range, and one of the reasons we kind of knew this was going to falter is Max. He's in the group right now, kind of manning the comm for the New York traders. He's really big into like open interest and order flow, and we were just looking at the open interest on it, and open interest, as he would put, was ass. So no real new money's coming in. Doesn't really look good. So I'm gonna get rid of the RSI because I really only use that on a few POAP coins, and I do consider this one just because. So what you'll notice here is as you're forming your top, your open interest is really just declining. And this is just an aggregate open interest tool, by the way.
And open interest, again, is new money coming onto the market.
Yeah, so open interest is a measure of like buys and sells, essentially. And you can then go into like the delta and figure out like, is it more buyers coming in? Is it more sellers? Because, to have open interest, you have to have a contract for a contract, essentially. That's what open interest is. Open interest aggregate suite by Leviathan. So if you guys don't follow Leviathan on TradingView, you should. He makes some really, really good indicators. I've got his other one here, Swing Points of Liquidity, where he identifies large amounts of open interest that have either been left or added to the book, and that high has been left unswept, meaning that we did not take those stop losses. And believe it or not, that can make for some pretty sweet trades if you can identify a bunch of Caspa that's just sitting there, So it's just one of those things where however you want to use it, depends on what kind of trader you are too. Some people are more long-term investor. For us, like we're looking for, I shouldn't say we're looking for exact entries, but a lot of time we are. We're looking for our levels, and then we're looking for a setup once we get there.
Keegan, can I interrupt to ask you, how do you, because Lisa was saying, do you just hold anything? It sounds like you trade everything. And you had mentioned a second ago about taking profit.
Everything but Bitcoin.
Okay. You mentioned a second ago about taking profit. Is it all about what the data tells you and how you feel in terms of, or how much you take and when, or do you tend to say, like I tend to have a rule for myself just to make it easy where like, if I am investing in something that I am trading, if it goes up 2x, I usually will take out 25%. Exceptions to the rule exist, and then I'll, maybe swing something, but I generally like to have little rules for myself that don't change much for how I can take profit in order to ensure that I personally will do it consistently in a way that, helps me realize gain.
So, yeah, when I set up a trade, I generally kind of know where I'm going to take profit and how much I'm going to take before I even enter the trade. If it's a day trade, I'll sometimes take all of it at once. It'll just be a one-time shot. I'm just like, all right, this is a day trade. I'm going to get in and out. This is not supposed to be anything else. Don't stay in the market. There's no point in that. It's not what this was designed to do. Even if it runs further and you're like, oh, I could have made so much more money, you just can't think about that. So, to your point, you have a rules-based system, which I'm a big fan of, meaning that you can deviate from it. Obviously, you need to be somewhat flexible, but by and large, for a majority of the time, you're going to do that because you found that it gives the best results. So when I say I'm going to take profits there, sometimes it is just context. The context for me on this one was that it's ran really, really, really hard, and I was kind of hesitant that I would even take that high, but the setup was to take the high, and then I was like, okay, so that's immediately a take profit because most assets range about 80% of the time versus trending 20% of the time. So, before every trend, there's usually some range that goes on, right? So this is putting in a bigger range. And I kind of saw that coming and I was like, all right, if I'm anticipating a bigger range or the potential, chance of it, I should at least protect myself and take some money out of the market. So, and I do trade everything except for Bitcoin. I know people don't want to hear that, but I am one of those Bitcoin maximalists, and it's one of those things where I try not to shit on other people for their beliefs or anything. But we get some smoke for it. I'm somewhat vocal, depends on who I can rile up. You guys will catch me doing that on Twitter occasionally. But it just depends on if I know they're sensitive or not.
Did you see Michael Saylor call people who held fiat instead of Bitcoin poor?
Yeah, I did. That was crazy. That was, but also, you know what? Bitcoin's at like $70,000+ That dude is like on cloud nine.
I was going to say that man
can sell a kid for that.
Just from holding his Bitcoin is up $5 billion in 6 months. Like, I think he's
Yeah, I mean, like in the last bull run, I sold everything but Bitcoin. I had to hedge short because I don't sell my Bitcoin. I don't ever actually turn it back into fiat, really. Occasionally I do if I need to buy something, but all the Bitcoin I hold generally stays on a ledger, and only about 20% of my capital gets traded with. So I have to use that 20% to trade both Bitcoin but also altcoins. So generally I'm pretty stringent on what altcoins I'm willing to hold for any period of time. And I've recently kind of allocated this bull run more of a fund for play money with what I call the shitcoin fund, because they do have some good moves. So you don't want to sit them all out, but you also don't want to dedicate your entire portfolio to that because, like I said, it's high risk, high reward. So when Bitcoin was dumping, I missed the top. Ironically, it was my plan that was going to be the top at 69K for like years, and then when it got up there, I didn't take the trade, which really bugged me. And I was like, all right, it's fine. I'll get it on like a retrace. Man, that thing nuked to like 40K so quick before it could hit any sizable retrace to get like a decent short that I had to wait until March of 2022, like a whole 4 months to finally get my hedge position. And the only reason I knew I was going to get it is because I was looking at like time price opportunity, points of control. So how much time we were spending inside of that large range that we put in. And then also we had a yearly pivot coming in, which is a basic tool, like average a price. But I know that those in the new, if you go back in all of Bitcoin's data, it's not quite as good. It's only like 70%. But if you exclude some of the early bull runs, which were really, really kind of just delirious in like their own right, it's 80-90% hit rate. And so just looking at everything that was there, I had targeted 32.903 down to like 32.4 or something as a bounce zone. We hit that 50% bounce, and I was like, okay, my target is 47.707. We hit 48.207. So hit that target. I knew it was time to start looking for shorts. That was going to be my big hedge, because if it cleared that, then I'm wrong that the bull market is over. And so that's when I took that short and just hung on to it. And so all I did was I had sold everything else. I took 15% of all of my capital, and I put it on an exchange, and I went short with 11x leverage. And I wasn't, I had a stop loss. Obviously, I traded a setup. It wasn't like I just put it in there like, hope I don't get liquidated and lose like a bunch of money. But the reason I did that is because I only needed 9% of my income or my investment portfolio to hedge against the downside, because I knew I wasn't going to sell my Bitcoin. So I'm hedging against drawdown at that point. And the other 6% that went into that trade ended up being profitable, which it was profitable by like a factor of 13 at the end of the day. So I actually ended up almost doubling my entire portfolio with only 15% of my capital while it was a protection trade, but I got to not sell any Bitcoin. And so I didn't have to do anything except report the new gains when that closed. And then at 16.6 flip long, similar strategy, upload an okay portion of my Bitcoin to an exchange, not using a ton of leverage, wait for a setup. It took me till about January to get the setup I wanted at 16.661, I think. And I've just been sitting on that position ever since. I've taken some other trades, like some short trades that were sometimes a couple weeks long. They all ended up getting stopped out, obviously, but they all hit take profits. I'm pretty diligent on not shorting in a bull market because I wasn't like one of those people who's like, oh, the bear market's over, the bottom's in when it happened. But I did start immediately saying, based on time, what I've been looking for in November, the odds of this being a low are pretty good. So why wouldn't you take a little bit of risk, So that was it. Sorry, that's a rant.
No, it's fantastic. Alex, you looked like you had a question a second ago, so I want to kick it to you. I don't know if you have a hard stop, Keegan. We want to be respectful of your time. Okay, I have a few just other rapid fires, but Alex, please take the floor, man.
Same kind of thing. I'll just pile on a couple of quick questions and then let you go off again. Don't worry about the rant, dude. I mean, that's what you're here for. We're here to listen to you.
We'll pepper in questions.
Drop the knowledge. So this is your show right now. So a couple quick little things I was curious about, just because I've had these questions before, and I'm certainly not the person to answer them. You see, when you're kind of stumbling upon various different technical analysts doing their thing, making their content, whatever, just specific indicators that they either swear by or just, abhor. And I know one of the ones that I've seen probably more often than not are the various moving averages, and then, looking for specific intersection points. I know you hear that a lot with some big words that, I think are good. If you're new to this, you're definitely going to hear these kinds of things tossed around a lot, death cross. I think what golden cross, like specific indicators that can be put on a chart that if they touch each other, historically, it typically means this. And then that kind of content will get pushed all over the place. So do you have any opinions on like those indicators, or are there other specific indicators that you do use or that you don't use, or are overhyped or underhyped or whatever?
I would say that moving averages, they're very, very good, actually. I think everyone should have a basic understanding of them, EMAs or MAs. EMAs would be my preference. I think they take the last 14 sessions and they weight them so they move a little bit quicker with price. But and with crypto, that's very helpful because it moves quickly. But the death cross stuff, what they're doing is they're taking death crosses and they're trying to create like a fractal, basically. So they're taking that and they're saying, okay, and the last time this happened, that means this is going to happen. Generally, there's got to be more context to it, because there are a lot of times it fails, right? And it goes the opposite because they are lagging indicators at the end of the day. So you kind of have to combine it with other things. But in terms of like social media, if I want instant gratification and I want a ton of views and I want a ton of clicks and like likes and comments, I mean, why not dumb it down to a level that, an 8th grader could understand? That's one of my biggest flaws probably is, not being able to like take something and not make it somewhat complicated. But it's definitely not something that I would ignore in terms of moving averages. I use them a little bit differently. I use them more as mean reversion tools because you have to think it is just the average of a specific set of data. Like if it's a 200-week moving average, for instance, it's the average, dynamic average, I should say, of the last 200 weeks. You'll catch me using pivots. I call them key levels. Very similar to a moving average, only it's no longer dynamic. It's a set in stone horizontal level. So I like to work off of horizontals myself. And the reason I do is then I turn around and I work off of, okay, if I know we just closed the month, and I trade on Bybit, so I track Bybit's chart. I know that we've closed prior to this month 61 months, and that out of those 61 months, we've hit the monthly average from the prior month within the next session. Meaning, if February closed and I had the February average, I would make that price available for March. And I know that in March I have the stat actually over here. It is 78.69% is the likelihood in which case we would hit the monthly average from last month. Now, that's not 100%, but I know that if I get a good reversal and I see the things that I need to see, and we're within striking distance of that I could get a decent trade out of it. I also do things like instead of moving averages, I'll use a standard average, because this is how you build statistics. You can't actually build statistics on something that's constantly changing. I always tell people you kind of have to have a constant if you want to like start really making this your own. One thing I did with the monthly average when we got to the bottom there, that first bottom at 17K, I started looking for 24, was because in Bitcoin's history, and this goes back to like the BLX, you've only missed 3 monthly pivots one time. And we had done that.
Zoom into that real quick. 3 monthly pivots, meaning each month the price is usually going up, down.
I'll pull the
and that was just to prep you. If you've got the chart up, I was going to ask you to do that, to slow down and zoom in, because a lot of our audience members will be at all experience levels and will totally not know what an early moving average is, what a pivot is, what you mean by that. So if you can point to it, that'd be great.
I just did our pivots video, actually. Which it's an average of price. So all a pivot is like, you can see these numbers here. Like, so notice how we didn't touch this one and we didn't touch this one, right? And then here's the one that I'm talking about, where we knew that only in one time in Bitcoin's history had we not hit the pivot after missing 2, right? And you don't do that very often. I think I actually wrote down how many times that happens.
And just to make sure, as an avatar for the audience, the pivot is measured by, you mark that line at that top, a little to the left of your cursor, when it started to go down, and then it started to come back up. You were looking for it to hit that golden line again, and it didn't.
So right? All this line is if you took this line right here is representative of this data. And what I mean by that is the prior month's data. So all of this price action from, well, I'll do this so it's a little bit easier to see. That way it's a different color. I had to make sure that I'm not like zoomed in on my face right now as I'm doing this.
No,
so this is the month of May right here. This blue horizontal, right? Month of May.
Turn it just a little left.
Okay. If you took the high and the low, right, the high, low, and the close, and you added them all together and you divided it by 3, it would give you an average number. That average number translates to 32,406.97, which is right here, right? You can see that you didn't touch that line, and I give it a 0.5% in terms of leeway. Okay. Now, you didn't do that again right here. You didn't do it here. And then I know that historically Bitcoin has only done that one time where it missed it a third time. So as soon as I got the whiff that there could be a reversal or this could be a bottom down here, I took a long, and this was my target because it's just a mean reversion at that point. And I already knew that historically 78.69% of the time we hit the monthly pivot anyway. And now I have extra confluence because I know that historically it almost never happens that we miss 3 in a row, that we miss 3 averages in a row. That never happens. So I was like, okay, this could be a good bottom for a while, and I'll trade it up to that region and then take profits and then look at what my options are at the top of the range potentially.
When you calculated the EMA for your month, high, low, and divided by 3, why 3?
Because there's 3 numbers.
I got high, I got low, and what's the third number?
Close.
Okay.
Now there's an indicator for this. It's called pivots, and it's based on pivot point standard is what you want. So you can go to here, and I use the Fibonacci version because if you go into this indicator, there's actually a lot of different options, and so I always stick with fibs. You can do classic, Woody, and if you want to know how those are calculated, you can go online and actually look up like why it's calculated different, and they do give you different values. Like if I change this to Woody, for instance, it should change. Yeah, those lines all change like a little bit. I've never gone through and seen which one was the most accurate, to be quite upfront with you, mainly because that's just a lot of work. So I've just gotten the data on this one that I know I'm going to use and seen how I can use it. So if you go to pivot points, like the daily pivot, for instance, generates every day. That's just the average of price from yesterday is then generated, and you put it on the chart, and that hits at like 90%. Now those moves are much smaller because you're dealing with daily ranges, not monthly. So you're not going to make a bunch of money on the daily pivot, and a lot of times price will close back at the average because you got to think it's the average of price from the prior session. The new session opens. What does the new session want to see? It wants to see if the buyers or sellers are still, valuing that asset in a certain way. Like, are they valuing it above or below the average of yesterday? or last month? Like, what do they think? For me, I trade it as a mean reversion tool, like right here, right? So you get a good top. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my pivot. A lot of times these pivots will end up being pretty close to the low or the high right here. Because again, you're getting back to the average of price, and now we got to see, are people willing to auction this higher over last session's average? And if so, then I can, start looking for other targets and, go from there. And it's really only one tool. But again, right here, you've missed one, you've missed two in a very strong trend. What do you know is probably going to happen as you come up here, get your rejection, you're probably coming back to the monthly pivot, right? And you chopped around it. This actually put in a really nice reversal pattern. But you've missed this one here, not a big deal. You're trending very hard. That actually happens quite often in Bitcoin's history. When it gets into like a full-blown bull market, you'll find yourself missing a couple of these. But if you can time it right and you can start tracking this, you say, okay, well, we missed this one. I know that if we miss a pivot, that we've only had 2 misses in a row out of 164 iterations 11 times. So I know that there's a pretty high likelihood that I'm going to get the next one, which was right here, right?
Sure.
So does that mean I'm solely trading for that? Well, no, but I know that now I'm opening the month below the pivot, right? And I've got a setup here, a technical setup for a long that's with the trend. I'm going to trade it to here. If I break this, I'm going to look to trade it up to higher targets. That's all about mindset and what kind of trades you want to take. Some people don't like mean reversion trading. I think it's because they often try to mean revert against the trend.
And can you define that quickly, mean reversion? Because you've used that phrase a couple times, and I want to make sure.
Yeah. So, reverting back to the average. So like when, let's say that, price has been going up pretty aggressively or going down very aggressively. Eventually, there's like a rubber band pullback, like to an EMA or an MA. This is just a horizontal version of that doesn't change. Like we know what this value is going to be no matter what. Whereas an MA or an EMA is still taking in data and will change over time. So with this, it's just like, okay, I know statistically speaking, price is going to do this, X, Y, and Z. So does that allow for 100% accuracy? Absolutely not. That means you're going to, I know that if I trade the monthly strategy 100 times out of 100 months, I'm going to lose 24-ish of those, meaning that I can't get wrecked on the 24 trades that I lose. But 76% win rate wouldn't be bad, So it's one of those things where you kind of have to figure out what kind of a trader you're going to be. And that's a fairly high time frame strategy. And what's really cool about that one is there is an indicator that we have with a guy in the group, and I think there's a public version of this now. It's called Future Pivots. And Future Pivots allows you to predict where the new pivot's coming in. It just keeps a line for you. So I believe it's, right here, Future Pivot. And I think it was T-Bone that made that one. But if I turn it on and I can go select what time frame I want to see, right? I can say, okay, well, I'm interested in the monthly time frame in this instance because we're looking pretty high time frame. I did have them put some custom intervals in there for me because they don't really track like the 6-month or the bi-weekly, and I really like those. But my new monthly pivot comes in here right around the old all-time high. And so that's several weeks away, so this line could still change. It's still dynamic because it is, again, taking in the open, high, low, close, and it will. But as we get closer and closer to the end of March, I'll start looking at this and saying, okay, well, am I getting a reversal sign here? Because a lot of times what will happen is it'll start reversing before the new pivot is, generated, right? So you can see right here, it would have been very useful to know that your new pivot was going to generate up here around, 43,355 as you're putting in a bottoming pattern. You're going, man, there's a chance we come back up to here. The cool thing about this one was there was also a reversal pattern there, referred to as a shark. I believe I actually still have that on here somewhere. We're on this chart right here. So this was I've got so much stuff on these. Did I really delete it? No, I didn't. There it is. So this was your reversal pattern. Exact same setup we just talked about. I'll turn on the monthly pivots. And exact same setup, right? You can see that this is a harmonic pattern. So I'm looking for reversal in this section. I'm looking to sweep this low. And if recovered, well, I'm targeting the 50% mark technically on the pattern, but that's also exactly this pivot. Like if you turned on the 50% mark of this, it is literally right where that line would have been, right here. So you can see it's there. Boom.
Yeah.
So I've got double confluence that I want to take this long. right? So
and double confluence just means two strong indicators that is a good decision for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Two indicators that are telling me that, okay, a long is probably the best trade right now. And so that kind of goes back to the bio. Sometimes you have to sit down because everybody was pretty bearish there. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, this is why they say don't sell the lows and don't buy the highs. Sometimes you literally have to sit down and go, what is the best trade right now? Is it a long or is it a short? Price is dumped 20%. Do I really want to be taking a short here? Or should I be patient and looking for a setup for a long? And maybe that setup doesn't come, but it'd be better to be out of the market than just be blindly trying to short and or long at a level, but generally speaking, if you're with the trend and you've seen something like that, you can start going, okay, maybe a long is a better trade. And if you start seeing that confidence that you need, like a pattern is there, then you've got your non-dynamic, pivot average is above you. You're like, maybe a long is a good thing. Maybe it just turns into a long to that area and I take profits and I get stopped out, or it turns into something more over time, and that's kind of what they mean by let your winners run. It's a really fine line to walk, because a lot of people get scared when things dump. Dumping from 32K to 24K probably scared a lot of people out that bought at 20K, because they're like, oh man, it's going to come for me. And I only made this much money now, and I'm not going to make any money if it jumps all the way to here. And I've been seeing, YouTube thumbnails that say we're going back to 10K, and people will literally make financial decisions based on shit like that. It's wild to me. So I try to keep it objective. I remember when this happened, because I was on Sin City, and they were asking me about it. And I was like, well, things look pretty bad right now. It actually does look like it wants to come down a little bit more. And I have statistical targets for the downside, actually, for the quarterly pivot and yearly pivot. But the technical setup is a long right now. So you kind of just have to do what that is, or just not trade, unless you're in a trade from higher up. So that's really it. I don't know. It's really, really something that over time you have to acquire. And you're pretty good at self-reflection. I know both of you are. And what a lot of people don't do in the space is journal. So I journal a lot of things, not just trading. I write down when I get out of bed, if I made my bed that day, did I get on my phone before I got out of bed, things like that. It kind of hold myself accountable. I'll be getting into manifesting. I think this year I've decided I'm gonna do the whole write down, I will do this. I've got some goals that I've been putting off, so I'm gonna do some of that. And those are more personal things. They're not really but you can do that with trading. You can certainly do that with trading. You're I'm only going to take good trades. I'm not going to trade emotionally. You could write that down, every day, and, keep a journal of when you break your rules and when you don't. And people will do that. And they become successful much quicker because they're holding themselves accountable. So I would say that all this technical stuff is kind of secondary to you being able to, one, kind of keep yourself in check, and then two, tracking things, literally tracking things, oh, I took this trade today and it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? And then maybe you take that trade another time and it doesn't work out. And another time you're like, man, I've been taking this trade for a while and it doesn't work. Why am I keep taking this trade? I'm gonna stop taking it because it doesn't fucking work. There's people that just keep taking the same trade and it doesn't work. And I'm like, what are you doing? Do you track these? They're like, no. I'm like, so how often does it work? They're like, I don't really know. I'm like, cool. So you're the one that's giving me money every day. Right. What are you doing, man? So it's something as simple as journaling, and that can help you out in so many areas of life. I got into journaling because of trading, and I realized my trading got so much better when I started keeping track, and even just talking about my emotions in a trade, how I felt. Max had a really great idea. He's like, just make a private Discord for yourself, and then just put all your trades in there. You have your own channels. You can chart. You can have everything for you.
Smart.
It is, yeah. And you can write your emotions on what happened. You can put your results in there, and it's all a big little, it's a little book there. So started doing stuff like that. My trading got even better. And then I was like, man, I bet I can apply this to my life. So, it definitely works.
Okay, really quick. We have a number of questions from the audience. We're going to get to these things. I want to take a second to just kind of reset the room for folks who are here to let you know that we're live with Keegan MagicInternetMoney, who is on YouTube and TikTok under that same handle. Definitely give him a follow. If this is the kind of stuff you're interested in learning and understanding, it will benefit you. Absolutely. It's a great investment of your time. He is live Sundays for a couple hours at a time breaking down charts. What time are you usually live doing that?
I usually go around 2 o'clock Central Time. It kind of depends. So, I think Girl Scout cookie season's over, so I'm a little more reliable on the time. But I always do. On Sundays, 2 o'clock. I usually do one in the group, whatever asset they've chosen that week. They've been asking me to get into stocks for them because we have like a little stock area, so I'll start doing that as well. And then every Tuesday I'm live on Sin City. I'll go live whenever someone asks almost. I mean, it's kind of like the freedom of working from anywhere. So I obviously like talking about shit. So it's one of those things where it's like
it's fantastic information, and I just want to make sure people we'll signpost all that, and I want to let you know that this also is being recorded, and we are going to upload it at the end of the week to Faceless_Labs. That's our YouTube channel. Just search Faceless Labs.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna send it out. We are about to launch a weekly newsletter, so we'll make sure we put a link to it there. We will tag you in all those places, Keegan, so that people can find you. In a minute, we'll get some more like links and stuff. But what were you gonna say?
No, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, no, I was gonna say I appreciate it because I like coming on. It's been a while since I've caught up with both of you, so yeah, dude, it's always good. I just don't get on TikTok as much, but I am going to ramp up the content machine a little bit on YouTube. But I would like to keep it somewhat, informational. So eventually we'll have you guys back on because I know I've had Alex on before, and do that. We'll return the favor. See if I can expose traders to things that they're maybe not used to seeing.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what kind of things your audience would find valuable from folks like us. It's always fun to get to.
You guys are more than welcome to hop in the Discord. The link's in my Twitter. Just hop in. You guys can chat. You guys will be chatting with people that are only interested in trading, basically. Some of them do cross over, though. There's some guys in there that know quite a bit of stuff outside of just trading, which I don't know how they have the bandwidth for it, but they do.
Well, I think I'd mostly be there to learn from them. Honestly, I think they'd be like, "Well, this guy shut up."
Oh man, it's a symbiotic relationship. Trust me, it's got to be at some point. You learn from everyone that you meet, whether you like it or not.
You can learn from a fool if you listen.
That's right.
We do have some questions from the audience that I want to be a good steward of, and I have a couple wrapping up questions. We won't keep you all day, but
cool.
The first question, Alex, stop me if I'm off on this, was just about you mentioned a second ago open interest as an indicator for what's happening, and someone asked, is that a positive or negative thing, like a green candle, red candle, or is it just a general volume thing?
It can be positive or negative. So when you get a lot of positive open interest but price really isn't moving, so like a lot of open interest is coming into the market, and actually we just did this on Bitcoin.
But just the short answer on it is yes, you can see that it's inflow.
Yeah. So you can see positive or negative open interest coming in, and I'll tell you that if you see a bunch of positive open interest coming into the market and price really isn't going anywhere, generally you probably have a pretty tight range. And what'll happen is, and this is what happened when we went up to 73K the first time and then dumped like 7%. Is you've got positions building up on both ends of that range. And unless the trend is going to continue, what you'll do is you'll wipe both sides. So we know that both sides stand to be wiped out. People say market makers, whatever you want to call it, but that's just how open interest is. That the asset's constantly seeking liquidity to keep going. So what it'll do is it'll either take the high and then it'll go take the low. And it makes for really great trading if you're ready for it. And that was something that we were actually really well prepared for. Max does a really good job. Like I let him handle most of the order flow, but that was the basics of it. We saw OI building. We could see positions on both sides on Delta that were building up, and there was a lot. And we were like, okay, this is going to wipe out some people probably, or it's just going to break out and rip. So if we get the opportunity to short this, we're definitely taking the short. If it's a dump, I definitely want to look for a long, because if we get a strong buy up, it's going to not only do that, it's going to take the high again. Or if we get a strong sell off and then open interest starts coming off as you reach into the lows, meaning that those people are now taking profits and getting out, I know that then I should be looking for strong buyers to maybe re-enter the market at that time. So open interest can tell you a lot. It can tell you a whole lot. One of the really good channel for it and resource for open interest that got me into this type of trading in 2020 was Bitcoin Trading Challenge. Really, really, really good guy. Bennett is a pretty fantastic resource. He's kind of monotone like me, very nonsensical. Like you guys would really enjoy it. I've actually put some of his stuff on my Twitter before. I rarely post other people's content, but his is definitely something I would look into if you guys are interested in this. He not only does that, he does how to arbitrage exchanges, all kinds of stuff. Like he's very, very into that. So I like his channel quite a bit. His Discord's a little overwhelming for me, so I don't spend any time in there, but Max likes it quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. We had a request for 2 tokens that you could maybe give us a quick thought on. You don't have to chart these out because I know you probably have the data for it. Somebody asked about Sol, and somebody asked about eGold. Lisa asked about eGold, and I may or may not have a vested interest in hearing what you think on both those tokens.
So Solana, we were actually just looking for a long. I was going to make a public video on Sol, just kind of recapping our members live stream where we went over the trade idea. We were looking for 158 and then 170 and 179. That doesn't mean it won't go higher. It's just those were the immediate targets. Where did I put my Sol chart? So the Sol setup was actually really simple. Oh man, I'm on the high time frame. Let's go down to hourly. And we'll get rid of these long positions real quick.
And while he's looking for that, let me remind you that we are here Monday through Thursday, every morning at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Keegan is on YouTube at Magic Internet Money, as well as here on TikTok. If you are enjoying this, the most helpful thing you can do in this moment right now is to tap the screen and let the algorithm know it's helpful, or send this to your friend whose nephew Carl is just texting him, dude by Doge. This is the content that folks who have questions need to see. If it's valuable, let us know that. And as always, thanks for being here, because your time and your attention are your most valuable assets. So tell us about Sol. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. So Solana, I'm a guy that if I put a box on the chart, generally that's where you want to be trading at. I've kind of made my living off of being able to identify zones. So this is a really high time frame area, and the whole idea of this was that if we could break above this Q3 low right here from the all-time high, this is the all-time high candle on Sol, right? So that's all I'm doing is, okay, this is a very key area. It was actually back tested on a quarterly level as well here. And above that, I have the entire average from 2021 projected out for 2022. So we have the yearly pivot there. So I've got a little zone here that I need to see it hold as support. If it's holding as support, I can look to take a long. I think we were down on like the 1 and the 4 hour. And it came down and tagged that pretty much to the T. It even gave you a nice swing failure pattern setup that we talked about earlier, where what have you done? You've taken the low. You've now back tested said new support. Stop loss goes below the low. You make your targets to the upside, right? So we were looking for that mainly because if you zoomed out even further, there was more information saying, well, you're probably going to go higher. So that was the idea behind it. The other thing you could have added to that, if you guys are looking to add tools, I know everybody is the monthly range was coming in there. Like this is your value area high for the monthly range as well. That was developing for March. So if you went to the March open, which is the 29th of February at 1900 hours, or 1800 hours in this case. Do I not have that on? You son of a gun. There we go. And you just ran it over to here where that would have been at the time. You can see that you've back tested the range essentially, right? So you're back testing the range and support, and you want to see those two things holding in confluence with each other. And once you got your long set up, the trade is pretty simple. You know, you get long, it's a nice risk to reward. So, 4 or 5 to 1 was good. And your context behind it was looking at the yearly chart. Sol has got enough information for a yearly chart, believe it or not. And this is going to be why you were looking at that. So,
and that's only 4 candles, right? Or am I missing one?
Yeah, it's only 4, but it's still important. So these yearly closures here and opens are very important. So when you see a candle like this where you have a really big push up, or it could be a monthly or a weekly time frame. If I go to a monthly, I'm sure you could find one. You want to see the reaction off of these levels. There are a lot of traders that are trapped at these areas. And they end up acting like magnets, because you got to think anyone that was buying above this level is pretty much stuck in that position now, or they're going to be forced out eventually. So you can get reactions when you come back up to these levels. Now in this case, you're so close to the all-time high, I'm not really anticipating it stopping, just because like context of this is pretty bullish. You'd still want to map out like, all right, where would I get bearish on this? And realistically, it's probably coming back to this, previous month high currently, which is also going to be the Q3 low, consequently, that same level we were just looking at. So while we're at 170 right now, I'm expecting to see 179. One thing I do that's a little different than almost anyone in the market, Let me get rid of some of this stuff on here because it's just a little hard to see. There we go. You'll notice there's some random lines here. So I track everything by time, price, market structure. Everything's over here. But I've started to do some things that are a little different than most people. Is I dissect things up based on market structure and time now, instead of based on just solely on the time frame. Oh, I need to.
When you say market structure, what specifically do you mean?
So all I've done is divided up the entire year of 2021, right? And anything above the 50% mark here, above this, little line, I'm taking a range on. And I take that range and I want to know where the point of control is, right? So, and then same up here. We've got another one up here that actually started in the next year subsequently at 179. And these are going to be the levels that I start to trade for. These are the points of control that I'm looking for. And they were somewhat respected on the way up. They're not meant to be game changers or game enders. But a lot of times you'll claim it, back test it, and that can actually be like an entry for a long stop loss underneath the next low, and you're looking for your next area.
And that range is between the red lines, right? For anybody following?
Yeah. If you're going only off of that, yeah, you can trade off of all these ideas by themselves, or you can add things to them. Like one thing I've been working on for the group, and you can do this on altcoins as well, is I did the. So are you guys familiar with the VWAP by chance? Volume weighted average price. Okay, so it's like a moving average, except it's the exact same thing as a pivot. So you have the high, low, and close divided by 3, and then they multiply that by the volume of the session, and that gives you a dynamic indicator like this. And I'll get rid of the standard deviations. And so like this is your weekly VWAP, right? So it's just a dynamic line, just like any moving average. It's just calculated a little bit differently than a normal moving average would be. Well, I like to take that stuff and then take the deviations of it and turn them into horizontal lines rather than working off of, them being dynamic and changing all the time. Yeah. So this has been my first year of doing this, and this is what I'm working off of for. I've back tested it actually in every single year of Bitcoin at this point. And altcoins, it's working out quite well as well. I'm going to clear this out because it's just on there. So these are the levels that we came into the year with, and I was looking for 47,047 to be somewhat resistance, no closures below, did wake up to 49, which is actually where I took my short, reclaimed the level, and basically just running. This is why I shorted 53K. This is a really big level for me, nailed it to the T. This is your $59,000 drop to the T. And this is where we're at now. We're up above at some resistance I've outlined, but realistically, you're holding on to your 7th standard deviation, and I'm looking for the 8th standard deviation and eventually 9th standard deviation.
While you've got the Bitcoin chart up, this might be a good time to ask, can you dive a little deeper into your thoughts about that? Especially, feel free to, you may not want to, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the ETFs or thoughts on, the halving. Are these things you're thinking about or considering, or is it once again you're just looking at the chart?
Man, people are gonna hate me because I was team don't give a damn about the ETF.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone was like, "What do you think of the ETF?" I go, "It'd just be another bullish thing in a series of bullish events on a chart that looks like this." I mean, like, this is the best chart of all time across any asset, outside of maybe Hershey because of diabetes, but. I don't know if you've ever seen Hershey's chart, but it's pretty good.
No, I have not, but I absolutely am gonna know.
Look at this. Who gets bearish on something like this? So I go, "Do you care about the ETF?" I'm like, "No." Like, look at this chart. Yeah. I only care about chart go up, and chart is continuing to go up. Nothing has changed. So when the ETF comes, yeah, great. Whatever news event people need to wrap their head around to make sense of price action is fine. I totally understand it. I just can't relate. It's one of those things where I'm kind of numb to it. We talked about that a little bit earlier, where it's just like, I know that this is where my edge kind of lies. And so for me, I just stick to it. Now, in terms of where I think things are going, I don't have many levels marked, as you've noticed. I've been looking for 73,244 since 2020. This was an outlined level based on Fibonacci work that I had done in negative fibs and trend-based fibs and then standard expansion fibs. So 3 different types of Fibonacci sequence to come up with a box. And that box was between, at the time, I believe it was 63,000 and the 73,244. So I knew this would be somewhat resistance because we're at our all-time high. We're above the all-time high, but we are still inside that box. If broken, I'm looking for 80.8 and then 81.5.
And if it's not broken, if it's rejected, how do you think about that?
Well, I don't think it's a death sentence. I mean, we could certainly pull back here. I think that it would be very fitting to pull back going into April, and I have fib time for that. So I work off of timing as well. The last week of March and first week of April is very interesting. And then you have the sell in May, walk away. You run into the, people always ask me what I think about the cycle. And I think that it's hard to really want to be accurate and say that, oh, this is going to happen. So there's really a couple outcomes. Price goes beyond everyone's targets. Price hits everybody's targets or doesn't meet them, right? So those are my options. In what scenarios do I think that price wouldn't meet everybody's targets and maybe we only hit $73,000 to $80,000, right? And then that's the high. You really have to look at the idea of a left translated cycle. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bob Lucas or not. One of the first people that got me into macro analysis was Bob Lucas back in 2018. So really, really good resource. And he got me into time analysis as well for Bitcoin. We do it differently, obviously. I think my way is a little bit more conducive to making trades. His is more conducive to investing. That said, a left translated cycle essentially means that you've got a cycle. We have a clear one like the 4-year cycle that's been going on. It's been going on like people can't even argue the 4-year cycle going into the last one where people said it was different. I just remember hearing that and just thinking like, how asinine. The reason being is we have had the exact same shit going on for so long. Like this move right here from this low, this is the low of the cycle before 20K, to the 20K high, to the 3K low, right? And so why are we choosing these 3 points? I'm measuring the distance in time from this point to this point, and then I'm projecting it from this third point. So meaning that this time analysis is now projected over. This is your one-to-one, meaning this is 100% of that move.
Yep, the same time frame applied.
It's the exact same time. Yeah. Now you're in log scale. Those exact same points, right, with a trend-based Fibonacci tool is also your gold pocket. This was one of the cruxes of why I was looking for this area of the chart. You had that, you had expansions, everything. Now, when it came to the lows, it gets even more 4-year cycle, right? You go to the lows and you just say, okay, how long did it take us to make a low from the high? You pretty much made your low at the 1-to-1 again. Another 100% move, and it's almost identical. And wow. Bitcoin has done this so many times, and now we're getting something different. So it's happening very, very quickly. So what a left translated cycle means is that we still get the gains from like a normal bull run, which in this case, a lot of people were projecting for like 80K because of, they're just saying, well, we probably won't in 100 because of like some 5.3 model or whatever it may be. For me, it's the 1-to-1. We get out a log scale and you go to linear. So we're no longer being measured by percentage. The linear scale is $81,000, right? So that's kind of why it's a number on my chart, 81K. Now, if we go back to this idea of time, this is pointing to May being 50% time. And does that mean that we're going to top in May and it's going to be sell away, May walk away type event? Not necessarily, but as we know, we've never made an all-time high before the halving either. So we're getting things at a very exponential rate. And it starts to raise the case of, will we get a blow off top quicker? Because it's really setting up for a left translated cycle, or it's setting up for a super cycle. Maybe we run the entire length of the bull market like normal all the way out until the second or third quarter of 2025, and price hits some pretty crazy targets, like up well over $100,000 maybe. But one has to also keep in mind that that doesn't have to happen. And that if price starts topping out early, like in May or in the summer, for instance, I think August is a big time frame of 2024, and you get that blow off top, that could be a left translated cycle. And that would wreck a lot of people because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it's just like every other cycle. It's going to be 4 years long. The 4-year cycle is going to live on. We're going to get another wave and this thing's going to go higher, and it never does. And that happened to a lot of people at 69K. Happened to a lot of people at 20K. It happens at every cycle. So, it's just something that you have to be aware of. And then once you get up to those valuations and figure out where that number is when it's coming in May, maybe we're at 80,000, maybe we're at 100,000. I don't know. We have to see the reaction, and then you can work out from there. Go, okay, where's my invalidation? Where does this start to look really bad? Where does it look really bad market structure wise? Do I have volume blow off tops, things like that? And then this cycle ends very quickly and abruptly. You can literally Google left translated cycle and you'll find tons and tons of stock data about it, and it can certainly apply to Bitcoin. So that would be my only concern. But to me, I'm looking for 80K next. Anything above 80K, and I've obviously got a box here, and that box sits at 102,288 to 109,774. And that's, again, based on fibs. That's all I'm doing is I'm just using Fibonacci work to get targets, because that's almost all you can do. Some people will try to speculate on market cap. That's fine if you want to do something like that. This is just what I'm comfortable with doing. I know a lot of people are into that as well. But yeah, between that and I do track the halving deviations now too. I am working on these, and they actually pan out really well. There's just too many of them. So it spans too much data to really kind of make it too useful. The levels seem very close together. So I'm hoping that when the halving comes, I'll have new data and I can try it out on this next one, and we'll see what happens deviation wise, to see if I can get a deviation model to like how far up we could actually go. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's something that Alex and I are often saying when people ask us is how little data we have historically speaking, just a couple of years. And so much stuff that's happening is unprecedented. And what I'm seeing you say, though, is that even though it's a small amount of data compared to something like, I don't know, the stock of General Motors, we actually do have a lot of precedent, a lot of numbers, a lot of different indicators that the data we have can be read from.
Yeah, you can definitely make roadmaps and plans. The only thing I would say is, no matter how good you are at charting or, how confident you are, like I always said, like Bitcoin could take everything I'm saying right now and throw it out the window and do something completely different. And the only thing I can do is try to make an informed and good decision when that happens, because the market is unpredictable. So that's why I always tell people, don't be like overexposed. Don't put yourself in a position where like you have to have something happen. And if something, if you have to have it happen, you probably shouldn't have that money in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where like, that's the thing. So just make sure you guys are being smart. It's fun. The bull market is so much fun. Everyone's making money. It can be kind of like a drug almost. Don't do anything stupid. I've met people that have thrown away like literally like a couple $1 million on trades before and didn't tell their wife that they'd taken out 401ks. And I'm not joking, man. And I get DMs, and like this has been going on since 2020, and there's always one a cycle that somebody does it. And yeah, it's tough because you just look at that and you're like, dude, we literally talked about this, like, but then I look at it and I've told people, I'm like, that could be a gambling problem. Like if you're doing this, like you may want to step back from this altogether, and until you get things figured out, because gambling is an addiction just like anything else, and trading certainly can be gambling.
For context too, just because that's 100% valid. Like I've always said, especially with the shitcoin mania, that's in the market right now and that has happened before and will probably happen again. I have no like moral issue with it, but you have to understand and recognize that you are playing the slot machines. And that is exactly what you should expect, right? So like I've never walked into a casino before with $20 and, a couple of my friends and expected to walk out with money. I expect to go spend $20 to play slots for an hour or, whatever. You can't do that anymore, but you know what I mean? And it's the exact same thing. So like when I'm messing around with this kind of stuff, I have 1, 0 expectations, and 2, every couple hours I go check in with my wife and I'm like, hey, here's where we're at. Here's what's happened in the last couple hours. Do you want an update or do you not give a shit? And she's usually like, don't lose the house, but no, I don't care. Do whatever you want with this chunk. And we'll just pre-agree on a chunk that is like, this is the gambling bag, and, sit down and make sure that like, okay, well, leading out the next couple of months, we've got X, Y, and Z expenses covered. Here's the shitcoin bag, go forth and prosper. And if we lose it, then, lesson learned. And that's
I believe in having a gambling fund, by the way. The fund that you can like throw away, you got to have that, because that's one thing I didn't do in prior cycles. And this cycle I'm having a lot of fun with it, because generally like I don't trade Pepe or I don't trade like meme coins. You know, I'm going to trade I think it's a coin called Balls later. So,
yep. What does it say about me that I instantly like, yeah, I've seen Balls. I've seen Balls do work.
Yeah, it's on Solana, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. All right, so I have two quick questions for you. One, based on this meme coin stuff. One of the things that I see most commonly in content that is, I think, meant to scare people, sometimes through positivity, into making a rash decision for whatever ulterior motive might be at play, is the use of, you know, a picture of a chart. And I think one of the last ones I saw was a chart that was literally like 36 hours old. And I think this might be a top contender for the most buzzy thing I've ever heard said about TA, because I hear everyone talk about it, including people that have never done TA in their life. Like, you're looking for the cup and handle. I don't think I've ever heard a pattern more common than the cup and handle.
It's a common one for sure.
Can you expand just a tiny bit on, like, one, what is that? Two, is it a thing? And three, you know, just, I guess, things to be aware of, especially because of the prevalence of like TikTok content around memes, and then using like a pattern like that may have been born from something else and trying to apply it to a 30-hour-old chart. So,
I started in pattern trading. I don't do as much of it anymore. Cup and handle is valid. To me, I like trading them in specific instances that they are also a part of a inverse head and shoulders. And the reason I say that is in every inverse head and shoulders, there's a cup and handle, because you have the head and then you have the right shoulder, right? So you automatically have a cup and handle. So those are the ones I like, because then there's confluence with another pattern, and you've got the making of confluence again. There are general rules to cup and handles as well. Generally, you don't want your handle to be more than 50% drawdown in terms of like a retracement, because there's going to be a retracement on the handle. Below 50%, a little skeptical. And that means more of a closure. If it's a wick to like the gold pocket, that shit happens. But 50%, that's kind of like my line in the sand for a valid cup and handle. Now, people will do that because a lot of these guys that are doing this stuff, like, you have to understand, not everybody gets into like volume profile or gets into like order flow. A lot of the old stock, I call them stock dogs, they trade patterns. But they trade them on like very high time frames a lot of times. So they're just doing probably what they know and what other people can relate to. I've been told many times that if I just did a pattern trading course and marketed that, and then when people got into the group, showed them, order flow and all that stuff, and like how we really are trading, I'd get more members. And I was like, I honestly don't care. Like, I've had people approach me in DMs like, oh, we could blow you up with that. I'm like, oh, I don't trade that way though. I don't trade that way, so I would never market it. But you certainly can. I think there's one on Bitcoin right here, and this is a high time frame one, but it panned out. So almost forgot to change that over. You guys would have been over. So you got like a little inverse head and shoulders here, right? So here's your cup.
Go just
your handle. There you go. So cup and handle. There you go. Right? You can see how that is. And all you're doing is measuring the low to the high, and then you're taking that and you're like projecting it. I don't know if this will let me grab that. And you're just projecting it up and saying, that's my target, right? So they would have had you targeted at like $33,000. Not a bad target at all. You would have made a bunch of money trading that. And that's assuming that you got in on what? The retrace. And what did we just talk about? The handle. The handle's got to be somewhere around 50%. If it wicks down to the 618, not the end of the world. Yeah, there you go. Close enough. Yeah, about
50% right at the bottom, right? So like 50
yeah.
Okay.
You want about a 50%. So, and that's kind of what I recall from these, to be quite upfront with you. My other favorite pattern to trade against is, so you can actually run stats on which one of these is like most reliable and not, these like basic patterns. Inverse head and shoulders pan out really well. Standard head and shoulders like this don't. This looks like a head and shoulders. Head and shoulders is going to dump. So where a lot of people got scared out of the market. the least reliable pattern in all of cryptocurrency, especially on Bitcoin, is actually the head and shoulders. And most people don't realize it makes perfect sense why it's not reliable, because when you go to, like, again, the BLX or Bitstamp or with high time frame, you have probably the most bullish chart of all time, and you're trying to trade a bearish pattern. You're going to win some of them, sure, and you're going to look like a genius when you do, but you're probably going to get wrecked a lot trading that. It just doesn't pan out as well. So, it is what it is there. But yeah, I mean, you can build stats on it. It's a little more difficult because then you have time frames and like all kinds of shit. But the only reason I know about those is that guy I told you about, Bitcoin Trading Challenge, Bennett. He actually ran an algorithm that tracked these things and then spit out the statistics of their hit rate, and that's how we know that the head and shoulders is trash. So we all kind of knew it anyway, but it was one of those things where now we knew statistically why we liked trading against that pattern quite a bit. But yeah, so why do they do that? Because it's easy for people to grasp. They see a cup and handle, they go, oh, I could do that. As long as someone can look at something and go, I could do that, and then be promised money, they're going to be into it. That's like human nature 101, unfortunately. And this market is driven on all of that. Like, how can I convince someone else that they can do this if they just do it like me, and they'll make this amount of money? That's all they're doing. It's pretty interesting. Well, it's not interesting. It's just one of those things where kind of surprised that it's still going on. But it's funny. There's a saying about trading that fear and greed runs the market because humans don't change. And then I see every cycle, like you said, you see the people come out with like the cup and handle posts and the 30, you're going to get rich too. And you're like, there's no way people are still falling for this shit. And like every cycle, it's the same thing. It's because there's a new crop of people. This knowledge isn't like readily available to anyone. It's not like taught in school. It's not like something that we're evolving to like be born with. Like, animals know like certain things are like predators. Maybe one day they'll know like crypto influencer, that's a predator, like everyone's born with that in their system through like through cryptocurrency acceptance and breeding. Yeah, that's all it is.
No, you're spot on. There are some things that never change. This is my third cycle, but I kind of really only call it my second, because my first one I didn't even really realize what was happening. I was just sort of there, holding a bunch of Ethereum. Yeah. And I had no clue like what was. No, I mean, it was, I had no idea what was going on. I think I bought it literally because I thought the name sounded cool, and I was like, this makes sense, because Bitcoin was too expensive for me. It was $3,000, and I was like, no, I'm not going to mess with that. Like, I can't afford $3,000. I didn't know that it was
I FOMO'd into Bitcoin at like 8. I had already bought XRP. I was already in Litecoin, and I was like, oh, I'm not buying Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was like $8,000. I was like, oh man, this thing's just going to keep going up. So I just bought Bitcoin. I ended up selling it at 16. So before all like the dump happened. So that panned out really well. But the other stuff, I didn't hold all the way to the bottom, but I lost probably like, I don't know, a good chunk of those gains, as you can imagine. But yeah, I didn't know what I was doing either, man. I got into it because a buddy told me about it, and he was like, oh, you can have. And then the moment XRP broke out and started like ripping, it was like every day I was making like exponential amounts of money. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I got to figure out how to buy more of this stuff. I was on like, what was it called? Oh man, I'm not on there anymore. They booted me. Bittrex.
Yeah, Bittrex.
Bittrex. Oh, yeah. Bittrex was like my go-to for trading for a little bit there. But yeah.
Do you ever use bots? Someone was asking.
I don't personally. There's some guys in my group that do. I don't know enough about coding to do that. I've like said that I'm going to learn how to do it. I hear
there's a lot of no-code stuff. Like I've used the KuCoin bots a lot, and you can set, I think, pretty flexible. I mean, you have to use a VPN to get on KuCoin now. But they were great. I thought they had simple parameters that were easy to set. And you may not find that because you probably have more stuff that you would want to trade according to. But if you're just looking for price targets, if you just want price targets, set it and forget it. Trading pairs of all kinds. I have found it to be fun, especially because I hate paying attention. The thing that keeps me from trading more is because if I start paying attention to it, then I get sucked into it. And then I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's a tough one. I used to have a rule that, because I have that same thing. Like I said, I used to spend 16 hours a day at my desk. now I only trade, like, I'm not going to do any trading today, but I only trade till like 11 a.m. and then I pretty much cut out until 6 for the market open, and then I go make myself available till 10 p.m. for the guys in the group. Unless I have like my daughter's in wrestling, during wrestling season, I go help her out with wrestling and stuff. So, but yeah, I've really kind of learned that I have to like set those boundaries myself. Because if I don't, it's very addicting, isn't it? It's fun to watch. You just sit there and like you're not doing anything. You're just watching the candles. But the bot trading thing. So bot trading is actually there is an advantage to bot trading that most people probably don't think about. So like you run all this back testing statistics a lot of times in trading, and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to trade this and this. Well, if you're not available to take every single trade inside of that statistical model, the statistics really aren't what you think they are. And it's like you said, you can't pay attention all the time. So a bot kind of gives you that ability to make those trades and keep those statistics actually relevant and good. So yeah, that would be the advantage to bot trading for me, is if you could set up like something that was running off of something that was good and you knew it was profitable long term, and you could get the risk to reward with the stats worked out, but you knew you couldn't be available all the time. I mean, a bot makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And the only thing that I would say about that is, and this applies to manual trading too, eventually you'll probably have to change your parameters and adjust to the market. But, that's kind of like par for the course for anything.
Just a couple rapid fire questions for you. As we look to kind of wind things down, you've mentioned TradingView. You've shown us some TradingView stuff. Mm-hmm. TradingView is a tool you use. Are there other tools you use, websites, products, or that you would recommend for somebody who, is going to start watching your channel and wants to, do their homework a little, start learning?
Yeah, so I guess I can plug some free ones first that you can get. Like if you're looking for open interest data that's not on TradingView, like we plugged Leviathan and his aggregate open interest, which I really like. But if you go to coinanalyze.com, you can get OI data there. You can get cumulative volume delta, which is just buyers and sellers. That's all delta is net buyer, net seller. And then it divides it, or it didn't divide it. It turns it into a line, kind of like an RSI, so you can equate it to that rather than having to see the numbers. It's much easier and more palatable for people, including myself. But Coinanalyze is a good one. And then there's a new one. I'm gonna shill it, even though it's free, so it's not really a shill, but let me pull this up and I'll plug it real quick. So this is another place to get information, different kinds of information that used to not really be available unless, we did not do a very good job of flipping the camera there, did we? There we go. So this is giving you anything from order book to CVD to OI, whatever you really want. You can see liquidations, volume, you can get different sources changing the exchanges, whatever you want to see. That would be the website, charts.aggr.trade/QCHO. If you wanted to get on there and putt around, I mean, it's a learning curve like anything in life, but good information on there, and it's free, just like the other one. And then another good one is it's paid. I use ExoChart for footprint data. Footprint chart is a little different. You're essentially looking at the orders in real time based on tick size that you've set, and you're determining what you want to do based on the orders actually coming in. So you can set buy and sell imbalances to see are buyers or sellers getting very aggressive. You can watch open interest. You can watch delta. It's kind of the original order flow area for me. I got my start on ATAS back in 2020. ATAS is a free for crypto platform as well. It's a full-blown software you have to download to your PC though, and I don't know that it's compatible with Apple. I can't remember if they ever upgraded that, because back in the day it wasn't. But ATAS is a really, really powerful software. It's very good. You can do literally anything with that. Like if you can actually wrap your head around getting used to it, like that one right there can do everything from trade for you on your exchange to give you more information than any of the websites I just gave you almost. So, and it's very real time. If you want to use it for stocks, you actually have to pay for it, but crypto, it's free for whatever reason. So it's been that way since I started using it in 2020. The channel that got me into that one was Axia Trading, AXIA Trading, and they have a ton of free content on their YouTube. And they do like, they used to anyway, they used to do like these really long workshops that were like 2 or 3 hours long, but they're literally just classrooms where these guys are going over this stuff like in gross detail. It's so boring, but it's so interesting at the same time if you're trying to learn it. It's a very niche audience, but the information's definitely out there for those that want it. It's just, having to source it, because it's kind of like you said, if you searched up like how to trade order flow right now, you probably wouldn't end up on any of those sites. You'd probably end up on like some guy that's advertising whatever he's selling, which is probably just a copy of whatever they've got. A lot of people did that. I called out a lot of people in the space from 2020 to 2021 because they were ripping off Axia. And I was like, dude, this is literally just Axia trading methods, like all of it. And I've got like 30 hours of their stuff downloaded on a PC from years ago, and books and stuff. And I'm like, I've seen all this stuff, guys. Like, I know what you're doing. It's fine. I don't mind when people do that. Like, I do it to a degree. Some of the stuff that I teach, I just tell people, I didn't come up with it. This wasn't my strategy. Sure. I learned this from somewhere else. But it's effective, and I think it's worth putting forth a rendition of how I use it. I just, I think that's like the bare minimum you can do, and I don't think anyone would ever be upset if you did that, because nowadays everyone like renames shit that, like they created it. Like there's groups out there that have renamed the 618 Fibonacci to their group name so that it could sound like it's their special level. I'm like, pretty sure that's been around for a long time, man. Yeah. Way before crypto, but so those would be some free sites. Those right there are pretty good. I don't do any like other scanners or news stuff. I know you guys probably are better than me at that. Like if you're looking for new coins, these things are probably not going to help you find any of those. But if you're looking for just like information on like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana, the major players, like you can get a ton through here, especially since they have so much volume now. Really kind of surprised by Solana this bull run. Caught me off guard as well.
Daniel in the chat says, if you're looking for new coins, come to me. And that's honestly a pro tip. There are a lot of tools. We've gone over it before.
Daddy will take care of you.
Yeah. What about trading simulators? Are there any free, people want to start playing around with those little tools or start simulating, with funny money?
Believe it or not, TradingView offers a trading simulator. Okay. So there is one on there where you can load up a fake account and make trades on TradingView, like on the exchange that you pick, and it runs like a P&L for you. Most exchanges have, like every exchange that I can think of has a program where you can have a demo account so that you can trade on it. Another really good option for people here is, I like to recommend this one. I'm going to shill this one. I'm a partner with them. I started looking into them a long time ago. I don't really shill because I just put it in my bio. I don't actually ever talk about it, but it's called Crypto Fund Trader. And the reason I like them, they're a prop firm. And the reason I like it is they don't make you download MetaTrader, and they don't use these bullshit brokers that are going to fuck you out of positions. And that's been proven that happens. So that's why I always say avoid those. But they have their own software that they've built into their website, and it's very good. And you can trade hundreds of cryptos, and you can trade indices, and you can trade Forex. And the reason I bring it up is you can go there and spend $50, and they'll say, okay, you have a trial now to try to get a $5,000 account. Let's say you're investing in this market, but you want to learn to trade. You should not be learning to trade with any of your own money. Put $50 in, because if you lose $50, who cares? In theory, versus your whole portfolio, because that's the one thing people do is they try to learn to trade and they overthink it, and they think they're smart, and they end up getting fucked out of all their money when everyone's making money by just sitting tight and not doing anything. So don't do that. Trade someone else's money if you can, or if you're trying to learn, they literally run the statistics for you. They'll tell you what percentage of trades you've won, lost, what your average win or loss was, how many times you traded, all that stuff. They give you all that data. And yeah, you are paying them for a service in terms of trying to get access to their liquidity. But at the end of the day, I'd rather someone do that and blow $50 or $100 than blow thousands or their 401k, when all they had to do was just have that in the market and not fuck it up. Because again, I literally trade with a very minimal portion of my assets at this point. It just doesn't make sense to trade with more of them. So I do have a funded account over there. I had a $200,000 funded account, and then I didn't realize they didn't allow for hedging. So make sure you read their like rule set. And I had hedged on the same asset within like a specific amount of time with a fairly large amount. And they shut my account down. Now, once you get funded, like they refunded the money that it cost to take that exam. I think it was like $900. So I'd already gotten that back. So it's not like when they took the account, like I was just shit out of luck. It's like, oh, I still have my money back, but like that kind of sucks. So I have $100,000 account right now, and I'm actually going to do a second $100,000 challenge to get another $100,000 account. That way I can trade them against each other separately and not have to worry about hedging. Yeah, that way if I want to hedge in one, I can do that without getting a rule violation or however you want to put it. But yeah, they let you keep they let you keep 80% of the profits like every other prop firm out there. But you know, I don't want people to like run to prop firms and think those are like the ultimate answer. But if you're looking to learn and you can't find a demo situation and you need that thrill of like, okay, I have to like see what it's like for like kind of like real money. I mean, technically you've put a little bit of money on the line and you have the potential to get access to quite a bit. So, you know, that's one alternative as well.
And that's Crypto Fund Trader.
Yep.
Do you have an affiliate link or something that we can share when we send this out? And you don't have to give it to us now. You can send it to us in the back because it's probably like AZGQ whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's like a 5% discount. It's one of those things where it's not like a huge discount or anything, but it's they don't offer like a bunch of discounts, but they're pretty competitive actually in terms of pricing for like what they offer. So, yeah.
And you mentioned some creators, but you said Eric Crown, you said Bob Lucas, Bitcoin Trading Challenge, Axia Trading. Are there other accounts that you feel confident recommending people learn from?
Let me go to my YouTube. Let me see. Let's see what I've been.
And generally speaking, is that a good endorsement? Like if you're following somebody, it's probably somebody worth
just because if I'm following them, probably not always. Sometimes I might just find them entertaining. I follow a guy named XRP Hank, and I can tell it's a fake voice. Like it sounds like I don't even know how to describe it. He's definitely from the coast somewhere, and it's like Homer Simpson went to like New Jersey and he covers XRP in just like the most ludicrous manner. And I just fucking laugh my ass off every time I watch him. So, I wouldn't take who I follow too seriously. Sometimes I follow people just because I know I'm going to troll them later.
Sure.
And that's now our relationship, until they block me. But, you know, I don't. I get blocked more than I probably should. I seem like a really nice guy, but I've got a
mean streak. Yeah.
No, it's not even mean. It's just I don't know. I like to poke people sometimes. I like to see what they're gonna do because it's the internet. It's not like we're doing anything too crazy here. It's just you know, they put themselves out there, so you know you might as well. I think that's probably it off the top of my head. I'm looking, and I don't really see anyone. Everything else is like. Well, you know what? I do like I like Investing Bros, and that's kind of a weird channel name. It's Bros with a Z, but it's T Shroom and TA Tim, and I met both those guys a couple years ago, and like I just like them because they're good dudes. I don't know that necessarily like if you're going there for like the TA or anything in terms of like if it's going to be too different than what you might see elsewhere, but I like them because I know them and they're good people, and so that to me that's worth a lot. It's kind of like you know anybody else I've met in the space. Like I do put some value in morality, I guess. You know, like you have to in this space. It's pretty tough, but, you know, because you end up with very few friends if you do that, but it's okay.
Yeah, they're better. They're better though, is what I find.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Alex, do you have any questions? Because the only thing I was going to do is ask Keegan for links one more time, and you know schedules, and then we can go around and do final thoughts kind of thing. Because this is killer. Yeah,
I was going to say obviously just thanks again, man, for coming in.
Yeah, I love coming on, chatting shit with you guys.
I think we definitely have the legs to say that this should happen again at some point because I could easily keep going.
Yeah, and this was
But
like a heavy one. I feel like we could do one that's a lot more light and fun and, ridiculous, but this was just dense and full of goodness.
I mean, there's a lot of info. It's really, I mean, I agree with your sentiment. It can be really hard to break this stuff down without being technical because it's literally right there in the name, right? Like, you can recognize that a lot of people do get their initial exposure to this industry and buying stuff by making a Coinbase account and putting $50 in and buying one of those big 5 that's sitting there and waiting for a little bit. And, so then the idea of like reading charts and reading, deciphering candles and all that stuff is just total Greek. So it is 2 very different potential worlds. But
I was trying to explain to a friend of mine that's in the market. You mentioned something about putting $50 in the Coinbase. The age old saying is like time in the market beats timing the market. And by and large, that's very, very true. Like a vast majority of the time, like not even like 70, we're talking like 95% of the time.
Yeah.
He was talking to me about this because, crypto's getting kind of popular again because it's going up. He's like, what should I do? He's like, do I buy and DCA into these? He's like listing like some altcoins. I was like, listen, man, you really can't be DCAing into altcoins in a bear market. That is a recipe for like negative 99% portfolio. If you guys are getting into the market, I would highly recommend that you set aside what you're going to be investing, obviously, but then not just what you're going to be investing, but what you're going to be investing in. And everyone preaches diversification, and I do too, to a degree. But if you're unsure about diversification, you're not there yet, find the winners, the Ethereums, Bitcoin, those right there. You don't really need much else. If you'd been DCAing into Ethereum and Bitcoin since 2020 or 2021, you'd be doing just fine right now. Those are the ones that we know are going to be here. Now, are they going to be like the hype cycle coins? Probably not. Bitcoin kind of is right now. It's stealing the show a bit, but long term, that's probably a good decision. Whereas, if you're buying, cocky Inu, I can't really tell you what it's going to be like in 4 years. Right. DCAing into that might not be a good idea.
Yeah.
Hell, even Doge is not a bad idea to DCA into once it starts like making lows, because if Elon Musk is backing it, like, he's talking about taking payments in Doge for Teslas right now, and it's such a meme that it's borderline becoming an asset. Like, it's crazy. So, things like that. But
we've said
just
before,
make sure that you. What's that?
Just we've said before that the cycle of acceptance on memes has really come full circle, because last cycle, the common buzzy thing to do amongst many large influencers, and I am proud of the fact that I remained relatively consistent on this whole idea, was just that like the whole thing as an idea completely just discredited the entire industry. And I'm sitting here just thinking, like, casinos are fun, but it's not fun if you sold the idea of a casino with slot machines in it to somebody as your 401k. So if that's the methodology that you're using, then of course, yeah, it's horrible. But if you sell it as like, this is a casino, this is where you gamble, you could win money, you're probably going to lose it, but a few people have won really big, best of luck to you. That's a totally different ballgame. And whether you like it or not, crypto is an internet native thing. Right? Yeah. And internet culture has been a pervasive, just monolith.
Memes run the world as far as I'm concerned. Like, there is no event in history now that we can ever have going forward that isn't too soon to be memed. Like, We're talking within minutes. It could be tragedy, and within minutes there are memes. I'm just like, holy cow. Who has the bandwidth and the time to just be sitting? There's entire Twitter accounts with millions of followers that do this. It's crazy.
Like, and it's hard to tell if the people who have the most influence, it's almost like watching trading. Are the people with the most influence and the most success the people who make the best trades, or the people who launch the tokens? I really think there will be more people who understand the medium of meme and how to become viral with a high degree of predictability or success. And they will become probably some of the most powerful people in recorded history because of their ability to, with a high degree of accuracy, reach many people with a message that moves them. Like, will be huge.
we have a very unique situation, and not to get too into that, but a very unique situation with social media where all this data is now present for not just like algorithms to pick up in companies, but for humans with interaction with other humans. So believe it or not, people are downloading this as they're interacting with other people on the internet. They're seeing things. They're going, okay, if I act this way, I know that I get this many subscribers. And you're correct. The people that are going to be able to get the most are going to be able, the ones that are able to monetize it and probably become extremely wealthy over time. That's why so many people have said, if you can just get a big account, you can make a bunch of money. Like Twitter's that way now. They monetize Twitter. It was that way before because people pay you to like say things like that. It's like this weird fame that's become a thing. Like now people are famous just for like having funny Twitter accounts or whatever it may be. Yeah, it's crazy.
One of the this was an interesting figure that I didn't even consider, but now that I think about it, it makes perfect sense. It was a list of, I think, the highest earning accounts on Instagram and a couple other platforms that they had aggregated. And number 2 or number 3, and they, for all intents, they were not including like the Kardashians and people who, you know, make $1 million for a brand deal.
Legitimate money.
Yeah. So I think they were just including like, you know, whatever. Anyway, Fuck Jerry was like number 2 or number 3.
I don't know
like
who that is. What is Fuck Jerry?
It's arguably one of the biggest meme counts on Instagram. It is the tales of this time.
Shows you how much time I spend on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a staple for years, and it didn't even occur to me that it was still a thing because the last time I was on Instagram was like 4 years ago, and I just saw this list pop up, and I was like, no way. And I go back and look, and sure as shit, like that account is just absolutely dominating, and just the amount of money that comes in from an account that is 100% just borderline toxic memes is incredible. So anyway, I just bring all this up.
What's that say about the future of civilization?
It really does. But I mean, you know, for as long as there have been people, there has been like, you know, comedy or the funny ways to interact with each other, and you know, just dumb shit to break up the monotony of life. And you know, for the last how long, ever since the internet became a thing, it's been memes, and crypto came in and swung into meme culture in a huge way, and it doesn't surprise me at all.
I look at it as like church, they like tithe to it now. Like they borderline, that's what it is. Like it's the way of the dodo. Now it's all memes. Bow to your meme god.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's crazy.
With that, like you said, you know, high risk, high reward. The risk there being that, you know, there is no loyalty in the vast majority of memes because, you know, a newer, funnier, memeier meme is going to come along at some point. And, you know, I mean, I see it now because I'm toe dipping in all of this shitcoin casino stuff. Like the buyers will sit there until, and the patience tolerance on these things is like 10 minutes. It's like, oh, it's been 10 minutes and I don't have a 3x. Dude, fuck this. I'm out of here.
But it's also really moving closer. It's moving us closer to an economy truly of attention. And it's morphing the way that humans make meaning. Like we rely less on language because we've all got translators. We rely less on proximity because we can talk to anybody anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And increasingly, we're relying less on like simultaneous interaction. You know, when Will Smith slaps Chris Rock, even if I don't know who those guys are, I've probably seen him somewhere before. I understand immediately the situation, even without context. And if somebody can present it to me with a particular frame, then it's enough that in less than a second, I know how to feel about it. And I have the means to share it or share it modified, you know, to fork it, as it were. It's really changing the way that people, I think, are going to start to, I don't know. I'm worried that somebody like me who really loves the medium of language and crafting messages in a right now happening interaction is going to be in trouble.
You know, I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I've been in the dating pool here and there, and the amount of relationships that are almost born upon just sharing memes and like shit that you found on the internet is insane. Like no real substance to the conversation. I've caught myself so many times. I'm just like, I don't know anything about this person, but they've got really good memes. Like, they've got my attention for a little bit. You know, it's kind of sad. It's just I
I would push back just a tiny bit to say that I think there is conversation in memes because, ultimately, what are we trying to do in that scenario? We're trying to connect with somebody. And that is why memes get shared. I mean, that's the key to a viral meme is like relating to someone where you can be like, oh my God, this is so my friend, whoever, and then send it to them. And all of a sudden
I do that as long as they can get on the phone with me. I'm kind of like Evan. I'm a phone call guy. I like texting, but like I either phone call or voice notes. I'm one of those. Like if I'm gonna send a long form, I do the voice note thing, and I do that because it usually pressures them to send one back. And I like hearing someone else's voice and hearing the tone and the inflection and all that stuff. So to me, it's like it's just kind of how I am. But yeah, but the meme thing, that is key. That has actually become like a key component of dating, I think, where it's like, oh man, if she's got dank memes, like that's a plus. It's a plus one. You know
what I mean? Flag for sure.
Yeah, it's a big green flag, especially if her humor is like there's no real like line in it, like anything goes. Like that's where you know, like you're like, okay, this person's kind of fucked up. All right, sweet.
Green flag.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so give us one more time, Keegan. Give us where we can find you, access to your Discord, your services, your videos, all that stuff. And if there's an ask you have for our audience for how they can support you, hit me with that.
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Twitter. They've shown that at MagicM1, YouTube Magic Internet Money. There's links to Discord on my Twitter and on my YouTube, so if you really want in there, you can. There's a free section. There's also a paid section. Paid section is $11.69 a month. It's pretty cheap. So all we do is we offer up, I wouldn't say mentorship, but like we try to get you into the tools and teach you how to not get completely fucked in trading. And I'm not going to promise you're going to be like a profitable trader because it takes time. Even with a really good course and someone telling you these things, it can take years. So don't go into there thinking that you're just going to be some expert right away. Understand there is a learning curve. And we're just there to hopefully make that learning curve one less painful and quicker. That's really it. Don't really ever shill the services too much. That's really it. I'm looking to, if you want to support me, chat shit with me on Twitter. You can stop by, say hi. You can post a meme. You can always troll me. I will troll you back. I look at it's like a term of endearment as long as it's not too personal. And that's really it. Like if you want to support, just interact. That's all you got to do. You don't got to join my Discord, do any of that shit. I mean, I don't care what you do. It's your time. Like one of those things where go on there and just you can be like, this guy's an idiot, and like I'll respond to that comment. I'll usually send you like a kissy face. Like I get people that do it, man, all the time. Like some people are like, this guy's a blowhard, he talks too much. I'm like, that's fine. You watch the video,
right? Yeah, bro. Well, listen, we can't thank you enough. I want to remind everybody we're gonna, the ask we have for you today is at the link in my bio, at the link in Alex's bio, and at the riseupmorningshow.com. We've got a newsletter sign up form. We are launching a newsletter. It's going to be the best newsletter because I hate them. They're the worst. Hate them. Nothing is worse than a terrible newsletter. This one is going to be one time a week, just the bullet points, because you don't have time every day. You might miss a show like this that's full of good stuff. And so we've got the notes for you, and you're going to get it. It's going to be free to your inbox. We will link you to all of Keegan's stuff. We will link you to some of our favorite links from this week at the show, but you can't get it unless you sign up. Link in my bio, link in Alex's bio, theriseupmorningshow.com. And while you're there, you can also find the link to join our free Discord community. And you got to sign up for the newsletter because that is how you get this week's POAP. It is our gift to you to thank you for being here, to build a deeper relationship that both of us own and nobody else. Free NFT featuring cool collectible art. The secret word will be distributed through the email newsletter, which is going to go out tomorrow. So, got time. Don't worry. You're early. And you, my friend, yes, you can get the good stuff by being a subscriber to that. And, of course, this episode will be up on our YouTube channel at Faceless_Labs. Just search Faceless Labs. All the Rise Up Morning Show episodes are there. We've got Web3 101. We did a whole week on meme coin trading last week. It was wild. It almost killed us. And who knows where we're going next. In April, we'll talk about the halving. We'll probably have an AI week soon. And anything else you want to see, you can leave us comments here, there, or wherever you might find us online. That's what I've got. We're going to play with some different time slots next week. Alex and I were talking about just to try and capture some more viewership at different times. This time works well for us, but it doesn't work well always for everybody in our audience, and we want to make this a win for you too. So stay tuned. We'll post that in the newsletter, post it in the Discord. But that's what I got. I'm well met. Alex, do you have a final thought, or Keegan, you want to do the honors and send us out of here with a grand salute?
I'm like literally the worst person at like signing off. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me on any live stream. It's awful. Max literally makes fun of me every time. I'm creating a video that I can just hit play that just does it for me. So that
like an outro.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a soft rug.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, Alex, what about you, brother? As we head into the weekend, you got any last words, good jokes?
Yeah, no worries. I'm also well met. I'm going to be in the shitcoin casino all weekend doing degenerate garbage. If you are interested in what kind of degenerate garbage, I'll be in and around the Discord hanging out. Come prepared to lose some money, and we can talk about some bullshit. I'm looking at the base ecosystem right now because the memes over there is basically just painting every big meme from Solana and Ethereum, paint it blue and throw it on base. And that's essentially my thesis statement for base. It's take Jesus and paint him blue, take Pepe and paint him blue. But through the course of this live stream, I'm up 360% on.
I saw you trading. I saw you have that look on your face.
Yeah.
I messaged Alex on Discord. I was like, "Bro, you trading right now?" He was like,
"Yeah." Let's see. That's my parting. If I leave you with a word of wisdom, the only reason that I have been any kind of successful doing this bullshit right now is because if I look at my screen and there's a fat green candle, like Keegan was talking about. I pull my emotion out of it, that like twinge of greed in the back of your head where like, okay, that's a 3x, but like, where's my 10x? I just sell it because at the end of the day, if you walk away from a trade with more than you walked into the trade, you won. I don't care if someone else walks away with a bigger bag or whatever. Just know there was a ton of people that are walking away in the red. If you walk away in the green, you won, and count that as a win and then find another one. So thanks everyone for hanging out. Keegan, I really appreciate you making hours of your day to hang out with us this morning.
Yeah, man, definitely. I like hanging out with you guys. It's not a big deal at all. This is fun.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll leave you guys with is Happy Pi Day. I forgot to say that. Happy Pi Day. It's Pi Day. Yeah.
Very true. Good one.
Athletes.
Very good.
Well, thank you, man. Let's we'll stay in touch, obviously, and let's do this again soon. Thank you, Alex. Go make some money. I'll see you guys in the meme coin casino, and until next time, my friends, rise up.